Spring 2026 Diamond. Retro an experience for every
Check one, two. Testing audio. Check one, two. Check 1 2. Testing audio. Check 1 2. check 1 2. Testing audio, check 1 2. Testing audio.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. As we begin today's meeting, we would like to acknowledge that we're gathering here today on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat nations, who have called this land home since time immemorial. We recognize the Mississaugas of the Credit as the original rights holders and the signatories of the Treaty 19, the Adjutant's Purchase of 1818, and that the agreements made therein are foundational to our nation-to-nation relationship. As a city, we're committed to our ongoing role in reconciliation through meaningful action rooted in truth, justice, and respect. We're grateful to the original caretakers of this land who have ensured we're able to work, play, and live in Brampton now and in the future. Welcome, everyone, to ARC Brampton's Committee of Council. All members are present here today. Madam Clerk, any online?
Through Chair, Councillor Fortini is joining us online today.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, I will move on to approval of the agenda. Do any members wish to add any business item to today's meeting? I have a few things that were added most recently. A 5.2 announcement tariff update. Madam Clerk, if that announcement could instead be a delegation to the staff report, that is corresponding to that instead, because there's other delegations and it would just go in order if we had those delegations together. So that could be delegation 6.7.
So will there be an announcement?
The announcement will, 5.2 announcement tariff update would be now a delegation that is 6.7.
Okay.
A delegation from Andrea Williams. Okay, I have Councillor Power on the board. Councillor Power?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to add a discussion item about bylaws work with the Diwali fireworks over the last couple of days.
Okay. Madam Clerk, what number would that be? Item 12.3. A discussion item regarding bylaw enforcement on Diwali. 12.3.1. Thank you. Councillor Brard.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add an announcement for National Respiratory Therapy Week.
So that would be an announcement 5.3. Thank you, Councillor Brard. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of committee, I'd like to defer 3 items based off of the fact that they were just published, made published 2 days ago. I'd like to defer or refer them to council of next week. The first one's on 926, which is the staff report, development charges, incentive program support, purpose-built rentals. Next item is 927, staff report 2025, second quarter reserves and reserve fund report. And 928, staff report 2025, second quarter operating budget report. Oh, and additionally, the 929, supplementary information purchasing activity quarterly report.
Defer 9.2.9 as well?
929 as well, yes. All the ones there that were published 2 days ago. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Brown.
I would support the deferral of all those except for the purpose-built rentals because we are in a race to hit our BFF target.
9.2.6. That will stay on, and I think we have delegations to that as well. And I believe a delegation was withdrawn as well. Madam Clerk, you have the delegation number.
Sorry. Through you, Chair, Delegation 6.1 has withdrawn.
Okay.
That's a Brampton resident.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Palashi to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. That motion carries. Moving on, do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will so note for the meeting minutes. Committee, as part of our consent motion process, I will read each agenda item that is subject to the consent motion, and any member may verbally identify the item to be held for debate during the meeting. Any item not held for debate will be considered as part of the consent motion and voted on for approval. Item 7.1, staff update, government relations matter. Held by Councillor Santos. Item 8.2.1 is a staff report, update economic development, office tariffs, Brampton's economic resilience, tariff action plan that will be held for held for delegation 6.5, 6.6, and 6.7. Item 9.2.1, staff report, state of local infrastructure report 2024. In consent. Item 9.2.2, staff report 2026, interim tax levy. In consent. 9.2.3, staff report, capital project financial status report, Q2 2025. That was not deferred. In consent. 9.2.4, staff report, CAA Center Amenity Naming Rights Agreement, MAC Hockey Development, Inc. In consent. Item 9.2.5, staff report, annual review of occupational health and safety, respectful workplace, and workplace violence prevention policies. In consent. Item 9.2.6, staff report, development charges incentive program to support purpose-built rental, options for payback and program amendments is held for delegations and discussion. Item 9.2.7, 2.8, and 2.9 are deferred. 9.2.10, staff report, GTA transmission corridor in Heritage Heights secondary plan area, held by Councillor Palashi. 9.3.1, minutes, Brampton Women's Advisory Committee, July 17, 2025. In consent. 9.3.2, minutes, Accessibility Advisory Committee, September 23, 2025. In consent. 9.4.1, correspondence from Alex Glista regarding development charges incentive program for purpose-built rental is held for delegation and the corresponding report. Item 9.4.2, correspondence regarding 9.2.10, staff report, GTA transmission corridor. Would you like that to be held as well, along with the staff report, Councilor Palashi?
Yes, all the correspondence. Thank you very much, Mr.
Held by Councillor Palashi. Yes. There's two of them, one from Gagnon Walker Domes, Professional Planners, and Glenn Schnarr and Associates, and one from Primont Homes.
CBC?
I don't see that on my agenda here. Is
Through
there
the
any
chair,
correspondence from CBC regarding this?
through the chair, correspondence from CBC was sent to staff last night. I will send it right now to the clerk to add to the agenda. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Item 10.2.1, staff report, special events, road closure, winter lights events, Ward 3. In consent. Item 10.2.2, staff report, updated asset naming policy. In consent. Item 10.3.1, minutes, Brampton School Traffic Safety Council, October 9, 2025. In consent. Item 10.3.2, notice of motion, strategy to clean up Kennedy Road and Stafford Drive by Councillor Medeiros, held by Councillor Medeiros. Item 10.4.1, petition from Brampton residents, held by Councillor Power. I'll just finish reading the item. Held by Councillor Power and Councillor Fortini. Item 10.4.1, it was petition from Brampton residents regarding request for removal and or relocation of bike lanes on Howden Boulevard, Ward 7 and 8. Thank you. Item 11.2.1, staff report approval of naming request, Heliotrope Pond. Held by Councillor Santos. (12.2.1) Staff report housekeeping amendment to administrative penalties non-parking bylaw 218/2019 in consent. Item 12.2.2 staff report records retention bylaw 272/2014 housekeeping amendments on consent. And item 12.3.1 was added by Councillor Power. Item 13.1 referred matters list in consent. Item 15.1 closed session report 2026 induction recommendation for Brampton Arts Walk of Fame in consent. Madam Clerk, could you summarize those items to be included on the consent motion for approval?
Through you, Chair, the following items will be included on the consent motion. 9.2.1, Staff Report, State of Local Infrastructure Report 2024. 9.2.2, Staff Report 2026 Interim Tax Levy. 9.2.3, Staff Report Capital Project Financial Status Report Q2. 9.2.4, Staff Report CAA Center Amenity Naming Rights Agreement. 9.2.5, Staff Report Annual Review of Occupational Health and Safety, Respectful Workplace, and Workplace Violence Prevention Policies. 9.3.1, Minutes of the Brampton Women's Advisory Committee. 9.3.2, Minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. 10.2.1, Staff Report, Special Event Road Closure. 10.2.2, Staff Report, Updated Asset Naming Policy. 10.3.1, Minutes, Brampton School Traffic Safety Council. 12.2.1, Staff Report, Housekeeping Amendment to Administrative Penalties Bylaw. 12.2.2, Staff Report, Records Retention Bylaw, Housekeeping Amendments. 13.1, Referred Matters List. And 15.1, Closed Session Report 2026 Induction Recommendation for Brampton Arts Walk of Fame.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just a small correction. I would actually like to hold 9.2.3 Staff Report Capital Project Financial Status Report Q2 2025. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Councillor Paleshi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to, with the consent motion, possibly open up the agenda, add the CVC correspondence, have that sent to the clerk's office, and also sent to members. Oh, it was sent to members of council already? Steve?
Through the chair, through you, Councillor Pelosi, it was just sent to the clerk.
Can we
I can
flip it to
send it
members
to
of council
members of
too,
council now.
so that they have it, and then add that to the correspondence from the other ones about the Heritage Heights corridor.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay, sounds good. We will first vote on the consent motion. I have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi to approve the consent motion. Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. That motion carries. Another motion by Councillor Paleshi to add an additional correspondence item 9.4.2. Another additional item added to that correspondence as well. Any opposed to that? Seeing none, thank you. That motion carries as well, and that's been added to the agenda. No. Next up, we have announcements. Our first announcement, 5.1, is from Jocelyn Johnson, Manager of Theaters, Cultural Services. Jocelyn, please come to the podium, and you have up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor Brown and members of council and everyone joining us in the chambers today. Today, we are thrilled to launch the Roses Winter Spring 2026 season, a lineup that celebrates artistic excellence exceptional audience experiences, and the incredible diversity of talent that defines Brampton. Before I share more, I'd like to show a short trailer that captures the energy and the spirit of the season.
Winter Spring 2026. The stage is alive with Jeremy Jordan, Sam Roberts Band, Tennille Towns, Bedouin Soundclash, and What You Won't Do for Love with David Suzuki. From rock with Lee Aaron, reggae with Kirk Diamond, retro grooves with the Dreamboats, to Blippi and Dino Light bringing wonder for the whole family. Comedy, poetry, and stories that hit home. There's an experience for every generation. Live, electric, extraordinary. This is your season at the Rose. This is Winter Spring 2026.
Thank you. So this season does bring together family favorites, rising global artists, thought leaders, and Canadian icons, including David Suzuki and Tara Cullis in What You Won't Do for Love, a bold and moving collaboration with Why Not Theatre. It also features Bedouin Soundclash, celebrating 2 decades of rhythm and song, Talvinder, and emerging international artists whose soulful contemporary Punjabi sound is resonating worldwide, and Brampton's own Lee Aaron performing in Women Who Rock for International Women's Day. Families can also look forward to interactive Blippi show on stage live and the glow-in-the-dark adventure Dino Light. As we look ahead to the Rose's 20th birthday next fall, this season builds momentum towards that milestone, a celebration of 2 decades of extraordinary performances, community partnerships, and cultural impact right here in Brampton. It also represents the continuation of our evolution, building on the strong foundation that's been created here while exploring new ways to connect with audiences. We're always listening, always learning, and finding ways for our programming to reflect the stories, sounds, and experience that feel relevant and meaningful for Brampton today. You'll see this reflected in the season, in the range of artists, the mix of voices, and in how we're creating space for both established and emerging talent. Beyond this lineup, the Rose continues to be home to so much more, from guest presentations and community performances to creative collaborations that keep our downtown vibrant and contribute to Brampton's growing creative economy. And none of this happens alone. Every show, whether part of our presenting season or brought to life by a community partner, reflects the dedication of our staff, volunteers, artists, partners, and audiences who make the Rose a place where audiences feel welcome and inspired. Encore members can purchase tickets starting today at noon, and public sales open this Friday, October 24th at noon. So I invite all of you to explore the lineup at bramptononstage.ca and be part of what's next for the Rose.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I have Councillor Santos as the council sponsor for this announcement wanting to speak to this.
Thank you so much, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Jocelyn, for sharing the lineup for winter spring season coming up. The last season was fantastic. Just a reminder to folks, VJ is here actually in the audience. He just gave a concert, the Moksha concert, for the 2nd year on Friday last week, which was incredible. And then, of course, Michael Jackson's Thriller album, I think, is on the stage tomorrow night. But that's the previous season. Moving forward, just a reminder to colleagues and everyone who may be interested, these tickets to the Rose and a lot of these performances are such a great present to consider for Christmas, for Mother's Day, for birthdays, etc. Make sure to check out the program, support our local artists in Brampton, and support the Rose Theatre. Thanks, Jocelyn.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. And if I can just add to that, I'm so excited just now finding out that Delunder's coming on this. In this next upcoming season, I'm probably his top 1% Spotify listeners. So I'm so thrilled he's actually coming here to Brampton. We were just talking, Councillor Singh and I Deputy Mayor Singh and I were talking about him a couple of months ago because he had performed in Toronto and we had missed out. So I'm so excited, would definitely love to be there. And also shout out to VJ and his friends that put together Moksha, an incredible event that I unfortunately missed 2 years in a row now. had tickets to both these shows, but I made sure that my friends went and they were all raving about it. So really excited to see this happen. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you so much.
Our next announcement was moved to be a delegation, so I will proceed with the delegations. Oh, sorry. My apologies. There was an announcement added from Councillor Bloor. Councillor Bloor?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, just want to call up Mawish Mazhar. She's part of the Board of Directors from Respiratory Therapy Society of Ontario to make this announcement. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, councillors, and guests. My name is Mawish Mazhar. I am a registered respiratory therapist and a certified respiratory educator. I'm also a board of director at the Respiratory Therapy Society of Ontario. So on behalf of the Respiratory Therapy Society of Ontario, thank you for taking the time to recognize Respiratory Therapy Week here in the city of Brampton. Respiratory Therapy Week is an opportunity to celebrate and raise awareness of the vital role that respiratory therapists play in our healthcare system, whether it's the hospitals, community clinics, long-term care, home care, or respiratory therapists are here, helping people breathe easier, supporting patients and families through some of their most difficult moments of their lives. Over the past few years, our profession has continued to evolve. Respiratory therapists have been leaders in critical care, patient education, and chronic disease management, and we have contributed to improving patient safety, quality of care, and health outcomes across Ontario. Many of us call Brampton home, and we are proud to serve this diverse and growing community. We are grateful for the city's ongoing recognition of our work and for shining a light of the importance of lung health and respiratory care. On behalf of all respiratory therapists, I want to thank Councillor Navjeet Brar for her continued advocacy and for inviting us to be a part of this and future proclamation. Your acknowledgement reminds us that the work we do truly makes a difference. Thank you and happy Respiratory Therapy Week.
Thank you, and Councillor Bloor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, and just really want to say thank you, Mush, for coming here. It's such a coincidence that you were a student I had mentored, and it's great to see you part of the board of directors at RTSO. And just really want to say thank you to the unsung heroes, especially during COVID. I think that's when we really got the recognition as RTs who were helping patients breathe, and they continue to work, just like you said, in hospitals and ICU settings, whether it's intubating, ventilating, providing oxygen for seniors in the home, and making sure that every patient gets the best care possible. And just want to say to the community, whenever you get a chance, whether it's a RT or it's a healthcare professional, it's always, important to show that gratitude, appreciation. It goes a long way. So thank you again, and happy RT Week to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And I almost missed that. Could we take a picture for these two announcements that we just had? Because then we have a list of delegations after this. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. We're moving on to delegations. Our first delegation is Delegation 6.2 from Sylvia Roberts, Brampton resident, regarding creating a Brampton Mobility Plan work plan. Welcome, Sylvia. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Sylvia Roberts. I'm a resident of Ward 3, and I finally had a chance to get to look at the technical report for transit provisions, and what I found is deeply concerning. Next slide, please. So the first thing to note is this report is an external report from a consultant. Staff didn't do anything wrong. Next slide, please. Next thing is the total transit projected spend to 2051 is $11.6 billion, which is what the State of Local Infrastructure report today said these cities' present total assets are. So I started to wonder, where is all of this money going? Next slide, please. Sorry, previous slide. So first thing is 24% is just the LRT. And then the next area of concern is how much our costing is for higher order transit. And then there's systemic issues with our fleet calculation on how large a fleet we need. Next slide, please. So the first thing is we are assuming $55 million per kilometer for higher order transit. This costing, how it is done, is basically, so we're going to buy a Corolla and we're going to throw in a house as an option on it, which doesn't make any sense. The majority of this cost is actually not transit, everything else you want to throw onto it. If you want to figure out, okay, well, this is still way too much money, how do you make it cheaper? The answer is, in most places like Europe, what you can actually do is you can do a lane conversion in the median, and you can do that for 10% of the cost of what they're projecting for that. If you really want to be cheap, you can convert out a through lane for $1 million a kilometer, which is 98% less money, and that makes it much more affordable. The easiest, the best advertisement possible for transit is someone is sitting in transit and a Zoom bus shoots past them, and they're waiting, and another one, and another one. Why sit in transit when you can take the bus, which clearly is shooting right past you? Next slide, please. So on top of this, it is forecasting that we're going to need to spend $150 million a year on buses. It's a lot of money. Next slide, please. So the numbers here are a bit of a farce. So they're showing that we're going to need to spend $750 million in Brampton Transit's budget, which means that the city of Brampton will be a transit agency that also operates a parks department. The good news is won't actually cost that much. And the reason is they completely got their math wrong on how many buses we will actually need. So the first thing is our AM peak is forecasted for 3 hours. Right now it's based on 35 rides per hour for 2024, and then as we add buses and we build Zoom lines and rapid transit, then we're actually going to get worse at that. There's no earthly reason for that to make any sense. We're also going to increase the fleet's percent that is articulated buses from 20% to 40%. These numbers should be actually, the amount of people carried per bus should actually be going up by a fair margin. If it just went up by 1%, which gets us to 45 rides per hour, per vehicle per hour, that reduces the total amount of buses we need by 700 buses, which is over $1 billion. Brampton Transit can do a better job than that if you give them the resources to come up with an actual work plan. If they have the resources, they can and runway to actually plan this out, they can probably average growth of rides per vehicle per hour by more like 2%. In which case, we are saving more than $2 billion, over at least $1.5 billion on buses, potentially $2 billion. The vast majority of this work plan can be done for way less than the $11.6 billion. It's just an enormous amount of money, and the report makes absolutely no sense. So staff actually needs to have the people to go through and come up with a credit work plan. Instead of spending $11,000 million potentially, we may need to start with spending, here's $2 million to hire the staff to come up with a real work plan. $2 million a year is much cheaper than $11 million a year. And you can potentially find out 8,000 million of that is unnecessary. Thank you. That's my delegation.
Thank you, Sylvia. Let's see any questions on the board. So I will have a motion moved by Councillor Power to receive this delegation. Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Thank you, Sylvia. Our next delegation is item 6.3, delegation from Dineshwar Dhanraj, spiritual leader, Brampton Triveni Community Center, regarding item 11.2.1, staff report regarding approval of naming request Heliotrope Pond to Triveni Pond in Ward 5. If I can call you down, please. Welcome, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, councillors. Good morning, everyone. I don't think we'll need the full 5 minutes. So we are from Brampton Triveni Mandir. I am the spiritual leader. And the idea came to us last year that this beautiful stormwater management pond is behind the temple. And the name seemed like it was generic, hadn't been renamed yet. So a few committee members said that since the theme at Triveni Mandir is water, it is literally named after a confluence of 3 holy rivers in India, that we could perhaps rename this pond to Lake Triveni, but that one was not approved, so we went with Triveni Pond. So we were very pleased to bring a small delegation from our temple and to present this proposal to you with the assistance of our 2 wonderful councillors, Rowena Santos and Paul Vicente, and of course the ever supportive Honorable Mayor Brown. And we hope that you would consider our humble request, as we believe that the social impact of Triveni Mandir in this part of Brampton has been significant, and it would really be something very symbolic and make the thousands of our constituents and thousands of our community members very happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have Councillor Santos, followed by Mayor Brown on the board.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. A very happy Diwali to the community once again. And it was quite an honor to help push this forward, and I know that it is a positive staff recommendation to rename it to Triveni Pond, and we have some preliminary celebrations for that on November 1st, assuming that everything is approved here at council. But really just wanted to say thank you to Triveni Mandir and all the devotees, and to you, Pandit Ji, and the community organizers, all the volunteers. Every time I attend the Mandir there and walk into the building, which was just opened in 2022, but every time I walk in, there's a vibe of positive energy, and we are always welcomed with open arms. And Triveni Mandir is not just about celebration. You're really focusing on the religious practices and the religious teachings of the Hindu faith. And so on behalf of myself and council, thank you very much for your contributions. 100,000 devotees in just a short period of time of 2.5 years of being open. That's incredible. So this is a small gesture of our acknowledgement of your contribution. And Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move the report as well.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. If the report could be brought up as this time as well. And Mayor Brown, you're up next.
Just want to say, Pandit Dhanraj, thank you for being here today. Fully support this request. And I think there's consistency in the city around places of worship where we try to support special recognition and naming like this. You look at Guru Nanak Street or Ahmadiyya Gate or Masjid Drive near Great Lakes. So this request is something that I think is very appropriate, especially 2 days after Diwali. And we've certainly noticed the vibrancy of your mandir and how active it is, such an important focal point for the community. And I have to say, for members of council who have not been to a holy party at Triveni, you're missing out. Best holy parties around. I think Councillor Santos and Vasanti are still trying to get some colors out of their ears from last year's party, but thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. I have Councillor Vicente on the board as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Pandit Dhanraj, thank you so much for being here with your faithful members. As Councillor Santos mentioned, we are always received with open and warm embrace by you constantly. And as you mentioned, with your name being an homage to the land of the Three Rivers, and now the community around you is beginning to take on some of the qualities and the light that you shine in the area. I'm very proud to support this and very happy that we can do this for you as just an indication of how much we appreciate your contributions to the city of Brampton and making Brampton an incredible city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente. And with that, there will be a motion to receive the delegation and also the motion that's on the screen associated with the staff report moved by Councillor Santos. That the report from Tony and Reed, Supervisor Parks Customer Experience, Parks Maintenance and Forestry to the Committee of Council meeting of October 22, 2025 regarding approval of naming request Heliotrope Pond to Trevani Pond, Ward 5 be received, and that the recommendation to rename the Stormwater Management Pond Heliotrope Pond to Trevani Pond be approved. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I'm just going to vary the order of the delegations a little bit, just so that we have a little bit more continuity here. The delegation that was previously an announcement, delegation 6.7 from Andrea Williams. If I can call that delegation up next, followed by and joined by the delegation from J. Paul Massey Singh, CEO of Brampton Board of Trade, and also the delegation from Vito Beto, President, Unifor Local 1285, and his leadership team as well.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council, Mayor Brown, senior leadership team. Thank you. My name is Andrea Williams, Sector Manager for Advanced Manufacturing within the city's Economic Development Division, and I'm here today to talk about Stellantis' announcement last week. It was deeply disappointing, confirming the relocation of the Jeep Compass from Brampton's assembly plant, an operation that has been standing by ready to resume work for nearly 2 years to a facility in Belvedere, Illinois. Stellantis has been a cornerstone of our local economy since 1985, providing thousands of high-quality manufacturing jobs and helping establish Brampton as a leading hub for automotive innovation in North America. While this is a business decision directly related to the tariffs, we need to urgently draw attention to the direct impacts this will have on our city and the business community. It leaves the 3,000 unionized workers at the Brampton Assembly Plant, and thousands more across our local supply chain with no answers and no clear direction on what comes next. With nearly a quarter of Brampton's manufacturing jobs tied to the auto sector, and each job generating 5 to 6 spin-off jobs, this development poses a serious challenge to our economic stability. In response, we're treating this with urgency and are actively developing a strategy to demonstrate to businesses that their concerns are heard and that Brampton is fully committed to supporting them at every step. With Brampton's previously established Mayor's Tariff Task Force, we see an opportunity to expand our efforts by creating a focused auto sector working group, ensuring we fully understand the ripple effects of Stellantis' announcement and can deliver targeted support. We will communicate with stakeholders and will work with our local Unifor 1285, who are standing here behind me today, local government officials, chambers of commerce, the APMA, and the Board of Trade to ensure Brampton's voice is heard. With the upcoming Auto Mayors meeting on November 7th, we will advocate for Brampton's strategic role in the future of automotive manufacturing. Our relationships with local colleges and universities will be leveraged to support displaced workers and strengthen talent pipelines by developing micro-credentials and explore job matching and training. We will continue to advocate for collaboration between Stellantis and both the federal and provincial governments to ensure that the Brampton Assembly Plant remains a vital part of Canada's clean tech manufacturing future. We know this deeply affects the people of Brampton and will work together to keep the public informed and engaged, and we're committed to securing the future of our automotive sector and protecting the livelihoods of our residents. As one of Stellantis' highest performing facilities across North America, Brampton has consistently demonstrated operational excellence, a skilled workforce, strategic location, and a highly integrated manufacturing ecosystem for more than 40 years. We are at a pivotal moment now in Brampton's automotive history. Now is the time for bold leadership, unwavering advocacy, and united action to ensure that Brampton remains a driving force in North America's transition to clean advanced manufacturing. I have no doubt under your leadership, we will not stand idle. We will work with Stellantis to encourage a new plan. We will protect our workers and secure a future where Brampton continues to build what moves the world. I would now like to introduce the president of Unifor Local 1285, Vito Pietro, to offer some remarks.
Good morning. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Mayor Brown and the City of Brampton. I'm joined here today by some elected delegates from our local and our plant here behind me, who will probably speak after me. I don't have anything written down. I'm going to speak from the heart and give you a little timeline on what has happened since last Tuesday and since we began our retool in January of 2024. And that's important for everybody to know, because this retool and EV transition didn't start, most recently it didn't start in February, it began in January of 2024. It was paused on February 20th of this year, and the company told us it was an 8-week pause for powertrain issues. And we knew that was a little bit of BS. We knew that because there would be nobody in the plant, skilled trades would be out of the plant, and it didn't make any sense if we were retooling how our skilled trades folks would not be in there. The 8 weeks came and gone. Still, the company was telling us that the Jeep Compass was good, the Brampton plant was good, and the Canadian operations were good. You fast forward to last Tuesday on October 14th, the company brings us into a call at 4:45 to let us know about a $13 billion investment into the U.S. and that our Jeep Compass will be going to Belvedere, Illinois at 4:45. And further, they tell us that at 5 p.m. this announcement will go to the media, and shortly after that, that they would robocall their workers, our members, with this announcement. The first time that they've communicated with their members would be on that robocall. Disrespectful and disgusting behavior by the company. I can't tell you enough how we didn't take that announcement lightly. We didn't take it sitting down. We told them that this is the wrong decision. This is not a decision that is correct or right. Our plant, like Andrea said, has done very well for many, many years. And on top of that, they got commitments that they made to us, the union, to the members of Brampton Assembly Plant, to the provincial and federal governments as well. So we're not taking this sitting down. And when you go into the next day, when the media started calling me and calling our national president, Lana Payne, many, many questions happened. We did media for a couple of days. And all of these questions started to come from the media about what's these big plans for Brampton? And we don't know about these big plans for Brampton because there's a statement that the company put out that there's big plans for Brampton. Well, that's news to us because they never told us that on that call on Tuesday at 4:45. They told us that this $13 billion of investment and this Jeep Compass is going to Belvedere, Illinois because of tariffs. And it's not feasible anymore to build in Brampton. So we don't know about any of these big plans. And then further to that, Antonio Filosa, our CEO, goes on this North American town hall the day after at 1 p.m. and talks about these big plans for Brampton and that there's discussions with the federal government. Again, we don't know about any big plans for Brampton. And I want everyone to understand here that you're going to hear a lot about companies saying that there's transfers available because there's a third shift being hired in Windsor. There is protections that are going to be put in place for the Brampton members, and there's big plans for Brampton. Don't get fooled by the message. The third shift in Windsor is what was committed to the provincial and federal government and to the union and to the Brampton members, just like it was committed for 3 shifts at Brampton and just like the Nexstar battery plant. Don't get fooled by the messaging of the transfers, of the big plans for Brampton and the protections for our members. It's a smoke show. There is no plans for Brampton, and they're just trying to appease everybody to make it look good because they moved our Compass to Belvedere. So don't get fooled by that. And I want to be clear on the commitments. The commitments is what we ratified with our members. The commitments is what the provincial and federal government signed, and that commitment is to the Brampton Assembly Plant in 3 shifts, the Windsor Assembly Plant in 3 shifts, and the Nexstar battery plant in Windsor. That is the deal. So we met on Monday, this past Monday, ourselves, our national president, Lana Payne, with the federal and provincial government, and sent that message to the company to let them know that they can't walk away from the commitments that they've signed with the provincial federal government and with our union to maintain the Brampton Assembly Plant and production at the Brampton Assembly Plant and the Compass at the Brampton Assembly Plant. And before I finish off, I want to talk about our members. Our members don't deserve this. Our members have built quality, high quality cars over 40 years at the Brampton Assembly Plant. Big, big profits for this company. All they've done is whatever the company's asked them to do, and they deserve to do what they do best and build cars. And we've been talking to our members. We talk to our members every day, but since last Tuesday, it has been unbelievable. And all we see is fear. We see sorrow. We see scared. We need answers, and we need to make sure our Brampton Assembly Plant is building cars. So I have full confidence. We've worked with the city of Brampton for many years now to protect our Brampton Assembly Plant and to support our Brampton Assembly Plant. So I have full confidence in the city of Brampton and Mayor Brown to ensure that we keep pressing the provincial and federal governments, and we use every toolbox this city has to make sure that our Brampton Assembly Plant builds cars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vito. I know the passion with which you speak. You've always stood up for your members in this fashion. I do have some questions, but before that, there are members of council on board that will be speaking to this.
Other speakers.
Sure. Yeah, go on. We can. Which order and Vito's delegation?
6.6.
Yeah.
Wasn't provided time because he was part of Andrea's. So, would you like the?
So they have 5 minutes too. Yes, yeah. Councilor Palacio moving for more time for the delegation. Go on. Thank you.
Good to go?
Please.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you, Mayor Brown and the councilors for giving us this opportunity to speak. I'm trying not to be any bit repetitive here of what Vito said, but you know what? This has been a very tough 22 months for our members. Like, we knew in January we were going to sit idle for a year, and then once the retool started, 6 weeks into that, they came to us and they said they were going to give us an 8-week pause. That was 8 months ago, and we sit here and we still have no answers whatsoever. And the answers that we are receiving is something that's coming, or not coming, what's going, like what is leaving our facility, and our members, they've budgeted to get to this point knowing that they were supposed to be returning to work right now. So the anxiety amongst our members right now with the announcements that have been coming up is very disturbing. I get calls every day. I get emails every day from our members. And I hate to say this, but you know what? Some of our members, the anxiety that they're facing is overwhelming. And I'm going to tell you that on Monday, we had one of our members took their lives as a result of what's going on in here. And I've been talking to that member and gave no indication whatsoever that, this is what the path that they were going to take. But that's what we're facing with right now inside the Brampton Assembly Plant. And I know, that's very difficult for us, because he just wasn't a coworker. He was also a friend. I've known that person for 36 years because I've been in that facility now for almost 37. And I remember the day he came into work on his very first day. And that was very hard. That was very hard when I got the call on Tuesday and was informed on that. But that's what our members are facing right now. And as Vito said, the company is offering all these transfers and everything else. Well, that's easy if you're a single person at home with no family. But many of our employees, our members, are double income homes, right? Families, because a single income family isn't surviving inside the GTA these days. Everybody has that. So it's easy to say, this is what we're doing for our members, give them the opportunity to transfer. We can transfer them all. But it doesn't do anything for the families. Your spouses have jobs and you just can't, and you can't commute 4 hours one way every day, you know, so it's absolutely impossible. So, you know, I know with the support of the Brampton, the city of Brampton, and obviously with the Ontario government and the federal government, we're going to continue to push this corporation who's made so much money out of this facility over the years that it's been there. Like these last cars that we're building right here under this series, we built 4.5 million of these cars. High quality, high cost vehicles, you know, and that's all we want to do. We just want to be able to go in there, you know, and I'm going to tell you, many members, including myself, have come in there at a very young age, and this is all we know. This is all we know is the manufacturing in the auto industry. I walked into that facility 4 days after I turned 19. You know, so I was a kid when I walked in there, and I've obviously grown up inside that facility. And now to have it taken away from us the way it's been taken away, it's absolutely heart-wrenching, you know, and to see that facility, if it was ever to close, I just think that I'll get more stories of what I'm receiving, what I received yesterday. So thank you very much for your time. And now I'll let Jason, our Skilled Trades Chairperson, take the mic. Thanks.
Good morning, Mayor Brown, members of council, everybody gathered in the chamber here today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jason Watson. I'm the Skilled Trades Chairperson at the Stellantis Brampton Assembly Plant and the Chairperson of Brampton, Georgetown, Milton, Oakville Skilled Trade Council. I'm here on behalf of skilled trades workers and families whose livelihoods are directly affected by the tied to the Brampton Assembly Plant, and by extension to the future of manufacturing in this city. Right now, that future is in jeopardy. Stellantis' recent decision to shift the negotiated vehicle program to the United States is not only a threat to the 3,000 direct jobs here in Brampton. I want to be clear, the real impact is far greater than that. This is about Brampton's identity as a manufacturing hub. For decades, vehicle protection has empowered our economy, supported local business, and sustained entire families across generations. We have a proud legacy here, and that legacy is under threat. Since 2023 bargaining, Stellantis has failed to show any meaningful commitment to this community. The planned retooling of our plant, essential to securing future work, was paused in February of this year, and we've seen no progress since. Stellantis has abandoned Brampton. No communication, no transparency, no accountability. This action is unacceptable because the consequences are enormous. If the Brampton Assembly Plant closes its doors, the damage will ripple across our entire city. Thousands of more spin-off jobs will be at risk in the parts supply chain, warehousing, logistics, restaurant, and small businesses. Tens of millions of lost in local spending and municipal revenue. And worst of all, eroded confidence in Ontario and Canada as a stable, competitive place to invest and build vehicles. Our members have done their part. They have met performance targets, adapted to change, and kept production moving under tremendous pressure. Up until December 23, our plant generated $15 million a day in net profit for Stellantis. For decades, the profits generated from our work in Brampton have afforded the company the ability to retool every plant in this region. And in return, we are promised job security and stability for our families. Now that promise is slipping away. We need strong public stand in support of keeping vehicle manufacturing in Brampton, ensuring Stellantis follows through its negotiated commitments to Brampton, and ensuring that all levels of government, municipal, federal, and provincial, work together with Unifor to reverse their decision to protect these jobs. Let me be clear. Brampton does not need more vague reassurances about future plans or transfer opportunities to Windsor Assembly Plant. We need real investment and timelines about how we can get people back to work. And we're running out of time, and this city cannot afford to wait. The closure of this plant would not just harm Stellantis workers, it would shake the economic foundation of Brampton. I'm asking you to stand with us, not just for 3,000 auto workers, but for the entire community that depends on this industry. Let's fight for Brampton's future and make sure we continue to build vehicles of the future right here at home. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the delegations. I do have a few members of council on board that may have comments or questions of the delegation. First up, Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Councillor Tour. Thank you for being here. Obviously, this was a punch to the gut for our community. And I would note that our council and our team here at the City of Brampton will do whatever we can to stand in solidarity with Stellantis and to fight on your behalf. I would note one thing that has been not mentioned in this whirlwind of news is the bailouts that Stellantis and Chrysler before them have received. We talk a lot about the funding for in 2022, the retooling and the production incentives. But don't forget, Chrysler had massive bailouts in 2009, bailouts that are not repaid to the Ontario Treasury or the Government of Canada's Treasury. When the news came out, I spoke to Melanie Jolie's office to ask if we'd be taking legal action. They've assured me that they are taking legal action. They put a statement out to that effect. But every penny should be repaid if they're going to cut and run from Canada. And so the first question is, what type of legal action would you expect to see from the Government of Canada, and what can Unifor do or the city do to support that effort?
Thank you, Mayor. And just on top of that history there, you're spot on. And if we go way back to when the plant was built in the 80s, that land was given to Chrysler for free. So let's think about that when we think about if they're thinking about leaving here. We got to hold them to task. And for the question that you ask, I mean, we have stuff in that plant right now that the company might need. We're not letting it go. It's not leaving that plant. So we're going to need the support of all levels of government, the city here, to make sure that we get the support that doesn't leave that plant to tool or produce any cars anywhere else, especially Belvedere. So that we need as far as some support and a toolbox and a hammer that you can use is something that definitely will ask for sure.
I also want to share publicly, you mentioned that the news was shared with you at 4:45. They booked a call with me around the same time period. Denise from Economic Development was on the call, and they said very clearly this shutdown is because of tariffs. And they said if tariffs are dropped, if there's an auto pact, they'd love to do production in Canada again. But there's no indication tariffs can be dropped. If anything, if a company capitulates like this so easily, it's going to be greater incentive for the Trump administration to pursue this approach. Your national president said Brampton was ground zero for the auto sector in Canada. And I think what we've seen in Oshawa and Ingersoll shows if it's easy to leave, these companies will leave. And it has to be difficult. It has to be painful for Stellantis and the Trump administration. And so thank you for sharing the local perspective, what this means to your families who've invested in their lives, being trained to build great products here in Brampton. And we'll look at the tools we have to support any of the pushback that is available against this this abandonment of our community by this company.
Thank you, Mayor. Just add to that, I mean, another thing we can do, and from the city, province, or federal, I don't know which jurisdiction it is, it's probably federal, but, let's not forget that Stellantis sells cars in Canada. And, that negativity and pressure from all levels of government and from people, if this is what they're doing, and I'm telling you this is what they're doing, we got to put that pressure and hit their pockets. Because at the end of the day, we can also put some tariffs on stuff that's coming into this country from the U.S. that people buy and make them hit their pockets so they stay here in Brampton. Thank you.
Absolutely, Vito. I have Councillor Santos on the board up next.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So in the same spirit that Mayor Brown has shared, I'll just personally say that I'm pretty pissed off, incredibly angry, and really feel for our sisters and brothers of Unifor in Brampton who've been putting their blood, sweat, and tears into this company for so long. I have family members who worked there, and I've worked in the auto sector as well growing up, and I have seen what having the sector in Brampton does to support working families, to be able to afford to pay rent, their mortgage, and you name it. And so not only am I angry, but when you shared the story, I was really worried that somebody would share a story that somebody took their life. Because when does the benefits run out, given the current shutdown of Stellantis right now?
So to answer your first question, the benefits that we have our members protected on is for 2 years, because that's how long the retool is supposed to be, and we're supposed to be back to work right now. So we're in conversations with the company as we speak to extend those benefits and pension credits and income protection. But like I said, those are important things for our members, 100%. But let's not get caught because the company's going to say how good they are at doing this for us. It's all a smokescreen to make it look like, hey, it's okay we moved the Compass to Belvedere. So let's be cognizant of that.
And through you, Mr. Chair, and that's why I'm saying that we're being ripped off. And when I say we, I'm talking about not just the workers, but the 5 to 6 other job losses that are related to every 3,000 jobs lost at Stellantis. The city has been ripped off. And with the province and the federal government investing money into Stellantis and the entire auto sector, to have them with the smoke screen say, oh, we gotta go. No, I think that next week we have advocacy days on the Hill. A number of us are going. I'm going on behalf of FCM. And when we have meetings with the various ministers, what I want to hear from them is what is the plan? Because we've been sounding the alarm, and I've been personally talking and going after Trump, this little counselor over here, since January of 2025. And for people to think that he wasn't serious, and then the federal government and provincial government run election campaigns on how they're going to save the sector, and then today not have a plan laid out as to what we're going to do, that's what I want to hear when I go to the Hill next week. And if they don't have a plan on whether that's supporting our workers, keeping the sector here, then there's some level of accountability. But at the end of the day, we as municipalities only have so many tools. Our incredible economic development team can only do so much. So the pressure's on for the provincial and federal governments to do more than just throw Crown Royale down the sink.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, just if I can add to that, when we talk about the numbers affected by this decision, it's 3,000 members in the plant, over 1,000 members in the parts supplier base, and that spins off to thousands, 10s, 12, 15,000 in the community. So it's very, very important. And like the mayor said, our national president has considered this ground zero because everyone's watching. Everyone's watching to see what's going to happen here at Brampton, because if we let this go, it's just going to snowball. And we saw how quick it happened yesterday with Cami Ingersoll. And, you know, we got to stand up. Now is the time for action, like you were saying, Councillor, because that's what everyone was elected to do, because we got to fight against these tariffs, and the words are not good enough anymore. We got to fight with action.
All right. I have one more speaker on the board, Councillor Palacio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Being, old school Brampton, born and raised, there was a time where you could ask every Bramptonian if you worked at or knew somebody that worked at Chrysler, and everybody would say yeah. Absolutely. It was a staple. It was massive. I remember the first time there was ever a buy local campaign, and I don't remember if it was the Charger or the 300 that they were building, but it was massive right across the city of Brampton, saying, let's help our, it was built in Brampton. Let's help, as much as we can. I think it was even around, they got rid of a third shift, I think in 2000 or late 2000s or something like that. And it was the buy local and support Chrysler and support, our fellow workers and Bramptonians. And that was the first time I ever heard of a buy local campaign. I thought it was pretty successful, because at one time you could see it was all 300s driving up and down the road, right? If you remember that. Yeah. You mentioned about some of the tools that are inside, and something that we don't want, and that's when I perked up, because I'd like to be a heavy sometimes. What can we do here? How are those tools currently being protected inside that building to ensure that they're not going anywhere? And is there a possibility that we can kind of work together to make sure that if they want to shut down the Chrysler, if they've shut down Chrysler, where we're no longer allowing them to access?
So the team behind me right here is doing everything they can to make sure nothing leaves that plant. We're workers representing workers. If there's anything you can do from the city's perspective legally, do it to protect us.
Like, when it comes down to it, if they want to get into their building, you can't stop them, right? We can, though.
Right on.
Right?
Right on.
So what can we do? And maybe that's something that I'll ask to go back to staff to say, if you're going to shut down a building like that, then, unfortunately, we can no longer provide access to your building until, things are clarified about, what's actually truly happening. So if I can ask that we maybe talk to staff, or staff to come back with that. My other question, though, is around, and I've been driving past it frequently over the last year or so, and it's just, I don't ever remember growing up and seeing that plant empty. It was I think it was that 3 o'clock shift where it was an absolutely nightmare over there. People leaving, people coming. But I recently recently drove past and it was eerie.
Yes.
It actually made me uncomfortable. I was thinking of like one of those movies where like an apocalyptic movie that's what the way it kind of looked, right? But back in February when they stopped the retooling, so that kind of tells me that they knew what was going on back in February.
Yes. Yeah, well, they're not saying that, but, you know, we're not naive to what has been happening since January 2024. The kind of the red flags were coming up then, and it was one thing after another, till the pause. And then now, you know, of course, we get gutted last Tuesday with their announcement. The tea leaves were there.
Now with public office, you know, you can somewhat easily, or you can always try and find stuff out through means. And I thought that, you know, publicly traded companies like them, you can also do, you know, the same thing and try and find out what discussions were being had or anything to that effect. Do you know of how I wouldn't know how to do that in the private sector, but.
So when we say blindsided a bit and, you know, smoke show, like we're talking what's happening right now, when you look at everything that happened from January 2024 to February 20th pause leading up to this announcement last Tuesday, we weren't just sitting back and saying, okay, company, you know, you're telling us this. We did everything we did. We spoke with you guys here. We spoke with the mayor. We spoke provincial government, federal government, all kinds of forecasters, our in-plant company guys that we've been working with for years and years and years. And everything led to the Compass being built in Brampton. It was just a matter of, let's hit the green button and we're ready to go, because the body shop's ready to go. We could start building cars right now. Probably within 3 months, we could start building cars. And if the company is saying that they want to get this car to market, because that's what they're saying, and they're moving it to Belvedere, it makes zero sense. It's double talk. It's nonsensical. So we're ready to go. But everyone was saying that Compass is in Brampton. Compass is in Brampton. You're going to build a Compass in Brampton. They're committed to Canadian operations in Brampton. All the way to the salary folks. Like the robocalls that went to their employees and our members, unionized folks, went to salary folks as well too. Everyone in that plant was blindsided. So when we were saying from day one that we think corporate's messing around with the Brampton Assembly Plant, obviously they did. So, you know, and when you talk about families and generational, you heard stories from artists and Jason. I got a story as well. I started in 92. My uncle was there. Every member has that story. It's generational, it's family, and it's the community. And this is how much this decision is going to impact. So we got to protect it for sure. Thank you.
Okay, so as for if lead services can come back and maybe we can find out a way, I'm sure fire would need to get in there to make sure that it's safe. And if the building's not safe, then we can't allow access to the building, right? So, you know, unfortunate, but if it's been empty for that long, there could be safety concerns. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Palashi. I have Councillor Keenan, followed by Councillor Broad, followed by Councillor Power.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for coming in. You know, I think this impacts all of us, and it's obviously we all know what's going on, the impacts and what it means for our community. So I really appreciate you coming, not staying quiet, excuse me, because that's how we really get the message across, as being united on a front to protect those jobs. This council, I can assure you, will fight tooth and nail with anything within our toolbox to be able to do that. And for protecting the assets within inside the building, I think very easily any other level of government that's owed money could easily put a lien against all their assets while they're going through this. I know the government can do liens very, very quickly. So it'll be something that I will bring up in conversation. But if you guys are speaking with the minister's office, that you could broach that, then they definitely can't touch anything, especially if there's a lien until the negotiations are done. So that might be an avenue and a tool that may be able to be used. But again, we'll do everything that we can. And like everybody in Brampton, I know entire families that work in that plant. I'm talking about mom, dad, and kids. So this is a huge, huge impact to people, and you know they can make these decisions very easily from a boardroom, miles and miles and miles away, but they don't really understand the impact of here on the ground. And we're going to make sure that they feel it to you know, what our ability is here. So I really do appreciate you coming in. Don't stay quiet. We sure won't. A lot of us are, a lot of these councillors around this table are currently working on individual Buy Canadian policies that we can do, or we're working with the other levels of government to try to, you know, make sure that we're keeping jobs here in Canada. And we'll just be loud, if not the loudest, for this, because 3,000 jobs, which will turn into many, many more, is ridiculous. So appreciate everything that you're doing for your members and the residents of the city of Brampton. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. Councillor Brar?
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair, and just really want to say thank you and appreciate you for you to come in. Just like Councillor Keenan was saying, there's a lot of residents who have been reaching out to us. These are real people. And I think, you know, when these companies come in, they think they can make a change, a switch like that. It's not something that's easily taken. And these are impacting lives of children, families, and many people to come. So I just really want to say thank you for coming in, and always know we will be supporting the workers in making sure we have their backs. But my one question was, how can the public, even though we are doing our part, how can the public help support the campaign? If there is a campaign, any media tiles the public can use, so we can be, you know, we can be feisty as a community, as Brampton.
I think emailing their MPPs, their MPs, not buying into what the company's going to say, like we've been saying about transfers and protections and, you know, big plans for Brampton. It's a smoke show. Like, if there's big plans for Brampton, we should be in the plant, retooling and building cars ASAP. So we got to get that message out, because their message is going to be different than what we're saying right here. They're going to talk about how good they are and how they're protecting everybody, and they're not. So that's important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brar. Councillor Power, followed by Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We know that it's not just Chrysler or Stellantis jobs. There's also feeder companies that feed into it. I myself, my wife used to work for Woodbridge Foam, so I know quite a bit about the automotive industry, but do we have a number of how many companies it directly affects here in Brampton, and how many employees? Because it's a lot greater than 3,000, and I think that's a bigger message that we need to get out there.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, that's one of the elements that we're doing with regards to the strategy. I know personally from business visits that I've done over the last couple of years, we already have a list of 24 businesses that are directly feeding the Stellantis plant. So we are talking about thousands of workers. And what we wanted to do following the announcement today is reach out to all of the businesses within the automotive industry to really understand what those ripple effects look like and how we can support them and develop that as part of our campaign. Yeah, yeah, seriously.
It makes a difference, yeah.
That was a good sandwich. Yeah, they're expensive. But they are good. They're filling.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Power. Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Tony, and your team for coming in. I remember in the early 70s, 75, 76, I used to be on Kennedy Road. We talked about the land, giving it free. My understanding was back then they had a 99-year agreement. So going back to Councillor Palashi saying how we could close this up, they broke the agreement. So to remove any tools, anything, is there anything we can do since the land was given to them with an agreement, stay for 99 years?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'd have to do a deep dive into the agreement that gave them the land, but generally, remedies such as distraint, wherein like a landlord takes matters, seizes assets to prevent a tenant from leaving, things like that, would generally not be available. But it is a unique situation, so we can see what's there and see if we can put some liens on.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe because the agreement was for them to stay 99 years. I remember back then, and when that was being built. And now all of a sudden they pick up and leave. So they're the ones who broke the agreement. So anything we could do to help them out, maybe that we could look into that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fortini. I think that could be part of the what Councillor Palashi requested for staff to investigate into this, and then maybe come back at a later time. That probably would be a closed session discussion. I don't have any further speakers on the board. Mayor Brown is back on the board.
One quick thing, Councillor Power made a good suggestion.
Councillor.
Go on.
Councillor Brown made a good suggestion. Why don't we have a council photo with the team at Unifor to show our solidarity? And also the information on the land donation, if you could share that with the city. I know ECDEV believes that the land dates back to 1985, but was it acquired from the province or the city? Because there may be a legal input there if there's a loss for something that was given. Would love the industry minister to have that information as well.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Brown. Seeing that there's no other speakers on the board,
Yeah,
if
hold on.
Councilor Palacio, you could.
So I just want to say about the assets inside, absolutely, if we could put levies or whatever against that so that they can't remove it. But I will tell you that Jason and I have told the plant management that absolutely not one piece of equipment will be leaving that building. And we have the ability to make sure that that does happen, you know, because we do have flying squads and we can make a phone call and get many people around that building to make sure that not one piece of equipment is going to leave. So just this week, we got a call from our shipping department saying, hey, they're loading up stuff, you know, and so Jason and I and another rep, we went out to the floor and we verified that this was all redundant equipment that we no longer use in that facility, and we told them too bad. That isn't even leaving. You know, the optics of it and everything else, so absolutely nothing is leaving. But I did want to make, bring to a point or show the shirt that I selected today to wear here, right? Because this shirt says, built in Brampton. And on the back, it's similar to like a rock shirt, you know, but it actually shows all the products that we built since that facility's been open. And I'm going to tell you, this is billions and billions of dollars that's on my back here of what we've put out there through that facility. So I wore that shirt purposely, and I actually have one for Mayor Patrick Brown, right? It's actually in my car. I forgot to bring it up, but before when we're done here, I will go and get it and I'll bring it back. Are you a large or extra large? Sorry to put you on the spot. You can tell me a medium and give me a wink, you know, so, and I'll understand. Pardon? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. If it could be moved, the chair be heard. Thank you, Councillor Keenan. Thank you to this very impactful, powerful, much-needed delegation that we had today. I also want to give kudos to Andrea and Denise and the rest of the team. Since this news has been out, I don't think that team has, slept on this at all. They have been making phone calls, not just to workers with Unifor, but also across a broader industry as well that are going to be affected, not just people that work at Stellantis, but the entire auto sector that depends on this, and then the tertiary sector when it comes to servicing this industry is getting impacted. Just following up on Andrea's delegation and her remarks, I know staff prepared a motion that would allow Andrea and the team to do more of the advocacy work through the tariff action plan, create that auto-specific action plan here, and give them the ability to go survey other businesses, how they're being impacted. The comments for Kuzma are due on November 4th. We want to get as many comments on that as possible. I know Unifor is going to have very strong comments on this, but all the other businesses that don't know how to advocate for this, we will be reaching out to them and make sure that their comments are duly addressed and noted in that response to the federal government as well. Just have and if Madam Clerk, if you could just display that motion that staff are prepared on the screen as well, so we have a chance to read this. And while that's being done, Vito, just a question as well. I know you and the Unifor National President met the federal government on Monday, but my understanding is, according to news, that the CEO of Stellantis was also due to meet Prime Minister Carney. Do you have any idea about that? Has that happened? Has something come out of it? I haven't followed it since, but that was supposed to happen Monday evening.
So when we met on Monday, it wasn't the CEO, it was President Stellantis Canada with head of HR Canada. So if that meeting is happening, I'm not aware if that's happened or not happened, so I don't know right now, sorry.
Okay, I was just asking that question in case there's something that has come out of that meeting, if that meeting has taken place. But if I could just read this motion that is here on the screen, including the added language from councillors that was just proposed here. Whereas I could probably skip the whereases. I think if we can just go down to the therefore be it resolved that council instructs staff to engage with the governments of Ontario and Canada to secure immediate transitional support for affected workers, including financial assistance, job matching, and upskilling programs, explore targeted investment attraction strategies and incentives to bring new production or advanced manufacturing opportunities to Brampton, ensure Brampton is included in federal and provincial economic impact assessments tied to the Stellantis decision, that council directs economic development to lead coordinated engagement with the automotive supply chain as part of the work of the city's existing tariff task force to respond directly to and measure the impact of the Stellantis announcement, coordinate efforts to support affected workers and suppliers, identify reinvestment and innovation pathways for the Brampton Assembly Plant, ensure Brampton interests and its workers are protected in ongoing Canada-US trade discussions, that council directs staff to prepare and submit Brampton's formal input to the Government of Canada as part of the CUSMA review consultation process, including feedback from Brampton-based businesses and manufacturers, a clear summary of how trade-related decisions, including the Stellantis relocation, are affecting Brampton's economy, recommendations for how future trade agreements can better protect Canadian jobs, manufacturing cities, and municipal level economic development, that council requests the staff report back to council by Q2 2026 with updates on all engagements with the auto manufacturing industry and federal provincial government partners, details of any funding or support programs secured for Brampton workers and businesses, a summary of Brampton's final CUSMA submission and related advocacy actions, and further that this resolution be circulated to Stellantis, North American Global Leadership, the Premier of Ontario, the Prime Minister of Canada, Global Affairs Canada, local MPs and MPPs representing Brampton, Unifor Leadership, Auto Parts Manufacturing Association, Peel Region Council. And if it could also include the wording from, could we do both of them as one?
Through
Or
Chair,
we can vote on them
If we
separately.
could
That's
vote
fine.
on receiving
Sure.
the delegations.
Sure.
The second delegation includes Councillor Peleshi's direction to staff to bring back. And then we can include your motion with the motion to receive the report and approve the recommendations in the report.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. With that, so first, if we can move receipt for delegation 6.7.
Councillor,
Sorry,
Councillor
Councillor
Chair.
Santos, you want to speak to this?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Seeing that we also have the Federation of Canadian Municipalities advocating on the Hill on the tariff and trade war issue, including auto sector, if we could CC FCM as well as AMO on this as well, that would be helpful.
On that motion, I'll just do the receipt for the delegations and then to speak to the motion if I think the delegate wants to add to that as well.
Yeah, so like I've said, I'm a worker representing workers, right? So I see a lot in there and a lot of good stuff, but I need to be clear that, we don't want retraining. We don't want other jobs. The company has violated our contract, violated the commitments to the Brampton Assembly Plan with the provincial or federal government, and that needs to stop. That has to be in there. If it is, great, because I don't see it, but we have to add it.
So my understanding just from Andrea's nods as well, that is part of that.
Okay.
And that is the line we're holding.
Okay.
But at the same time, with the federal government in their plans to any affected industries when it comes to tariffs, are talking about how they're going to address any of those industries, we want to make sure they're not forgetting about auto as part of that as well. So that should be part of their long-term plan, because none of us foresee this tariff war settling within the next few months. But that's got to be part of their plan as well. So absolutely holding the line on exactly what you said in your delegations, and you've heard all members of council on the same as well.
Okay. Can we ask also a letter be sent to Stellantis from the city of Brampton as well, stating, yeah? Okay.
Absolutely. That could
Thanks.
be the mayor would. Okay, perfect. So first, I would move, if I can have Councillor Santos move that the delegation 6.7 be received. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. That motion carries. And moved by Councillor Peleschi to receive delegation 6.6 from Vito Vito, President of Unifor, and his team regarding the tariff update Stellantis be received, and that staff be requested to investigate potential legal means of redress with respect to access to the property. All in favor? Recorded vote on this, please.
Through Chair, recorded vote on item 6.6 to receive the delegation and request staff to investigate legal means of redress. All those members in favor, please stand. I see Councillor Medeiros, Councillor Power, Mayor Brown, Deputy Mayor Singh, Chair Tour, Councillor Keenan, Councillor Palashi, Councillor Brar, Councillor Vasante, and Councillor Santos. Councillor Fortini, you're online. How do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. That's a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That
Right on.
carries as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vito, okay, if we could have that on the screen, please. The motion that was just read, moved by myself. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. That motion carries as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, no, thank you, Andrea, Denise, Mayor, City Council, City of Brampton. Really appreciate this on behalf of Local 1285 and our in-plant leadership. Thank you for the time here. Thank you for the support like you've done over the years. Really appreciate this. And just one last little tidbit before we go. It's Beato, not Beto. Right on. Thank you, everyone.
For once, I got someone's name wrong. Eh? Thank you, Vito. Before we do the picture, we do have one more associated delegation. Sorry to miss that from the Brampton Board of Trade. If we could hear that delegation, if you can hang tight for 5 minutes, we'll do that delegation and then we can do a group picture. And yeah, a Honda or a Toyota. Also, just to the previous delegation, and I know, Jason, if you caught it, I think you had stepped out, but Councilor Broward had that direction that we can work with Unifor to see if we can get social tiles, any kind of messaging that the city can work with Unifor to get it out and support. Thank you. Welcome, J. Paul. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, and good morning, Council. Don't know much more I can say. I think the points have been articulated well. I will point out, when I initially indicated that the Board of Trade would like to delegate today, we thought it was around a broader conversation around tariff. Obviously, things change so quickly, and I'm very happy that I'm here and have the opportunity to speak on this very specific issue, and that of the recent Stellantis announcement in the Brampton Assembly Plant. And on that note, what I do want to share first off is I want to commend the work being done by the Economic Development Office and the strong position taken by Council through the letter that the Mayor put forward regarding this situation as it emerged. I very much the Board of Trade in support of the auto sector working group within the Economic Development Office's Tariff Relief Plan. It's an important initiative to take on, and we very much appreciate the approach being taken, that of engaging stakeholders, that focusing on reskilling, upskilling, and so forth, to ensure that we have sustainability going forward. Vito's comments around, we want the jobs back is absolutely the important piece and the primary focus, but we appreciate that we're looking at all options here at the same time. I also wanted to just use my time really quickly to say we do appreciate the advocacy efforts being undertaken by the city as well as Unifor as it pertains to other levels of government, and very much so the focus on being specific about what the asks are, the specific around the deliverables that Stellantis needs to bring back to our community, and most importantly, the timelines. And the frustration that we haven't gotten timelines. All we've received thus far is platitudes. We know that you're not satisfied either, and I just want to voice my support for continuing in that direction. We will continue to do so also. The last piece I wanted to use my time for today was just talk about how we work together as entities in this community to ensure that we are advocating in the right direction, the best messages that we can be sending. And that's really about, we talked about not just giving Stellantis the opportunity to walk away from this Brampton Assembly Plant. This is really, and not an opportunity to walk away from Unifor. What we are trying to stave off here is an opportunity to walk away from Brampton as a whole. And the challenge and the message that's being sent nationally and globally about how easy it may be to walk away from not just Canadian manufacturing, but Brampton manufacturing. And for that reason, as we reached out, and I've been talking to my members over the past week and trying to understand how this issue impacts them, I want to focus a little bit on the piece that has been talked about here, and that's the 6 to 7. We very much stand in solidarity with the 3,000 employees through Unifor that have been impacted by this. But I think it's important that we do talk about the 18 to 20,000 individuals who are impacted indirectly by the decisions Stellantis has callously made without any kind of consultation or with any regard to the impact they're having in our community. And as been touched on, that's not just those in the automotive sector. That's everyone from the folks who, provide uniforms and, helps keep the lights on that plant open. As touched on it's the people at that Italian place across the street who are being impacted by the decisions that are being made here. And so to that end, I have a couple asks as we go forward, if the council will indulge, to support the work that the EDO is doing and expand the scope of what's being undertaken. And that's specifically to ensure that our efforts expand to include the circle of businesses that are being engaged. We know in our conversations to the Board of Trade already, we're seeing the impact of this decision and the lead up to this decision, as Vito had so aptly pointed out. This is something that's been 2 years in the making that has impacted everyone across modalities of freight forwarders. It's impacted those in the manufacturing sector. It's impacted those in the hospitality sector around that plant. And we need to ensure that any solutioning that we're looking for is ensuring that we're touching on those individuals as well, understanding what types of reliefs and supports we can be putting in place for those businesses. I do believe as well that we need to be talking about a Brampton strategy when we talk to other levels of government as it pertains to what's happening here at Stellantis in our Brampton Assembly Plant, and that includes liquidity support. One of the things that's come across in our conversations with our members is we appreciate the efforts being undertaken at the various levels of government to provide support through businesses through this tariff period, but many of those supports are focused on things that are along the horizon. Trade missions abroad, opportunities to support capital investment, things that are meaningful, but things that aren't helping businesses right now as they're struggling to meet payroll. And so I'm asking, as we look forward and our advocacy efforts jointly, that the city also work with the Board of Trade and around this messaging that we need supports to help businesses day to day today to ensure they survive this period, to get those bigger tariff reliefs and supports that are out there. And finally, I do want to touch on something that I think is really important here when we talk about the timelines of Stellantis. This decision that's happened came out of the blue, and it's very much been based around, blamed on tariff. And no doubt that plays a role, and the pressure that's being placed on the White House and so forth. But that said, we know from the timeline that this is something that's been brewing for some time. And the piece that's not been talked enough about, I think, is the focus on business competitiveness here in Canada and in Brampton specifically ongoing. And that's everything from red tape to taxation to the cost of utilities to the cost of property here. And as we go forward and work together to advocate for solutions to keep not just Stellantis and therefore our colleagues at Unifor employed, but all Brampton businesses functioning well, we have to expand the scope of what we're talking about beyond tariff. Tariff is a smokescreen. Tariff is a distraction. It's part of the conversation, but we need to be talking about the fundamental the issues that allow businesses in Brampton to be competitive. And so I look to council as we look forward and start making motions on how to proceed on this and the further reports that come from the Tariff Task Force, that we ensure we're expanding our conversation to talk about the businesses who are indirectly being impacted, how we're supporting those businesses day to day, not just in the long term, but most importantly, how are we working together, the Board of Trade, the City of Brampton, the Economic Development Office, and others, to ensure that we're tackling the issues that matter to businesses day to day, regardless of the tariff issue, in order to ensure we continue to have a thriving and world-class manufacturing environment here. And with that, I know I'm at my time. I'd like to thank, again, Council for allowing me to speak here, allowing us at the Board of Trade to be a voice at the Tariff Task Force and other tables, and I look forward to being a voice alongside you to other levels of government as we best represent our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay Paul. Very well said. And I think if that could just be simply direction to staff as well, to include the Brampton Board of Trade part of that consultation that we do with businesses and to work alongside with you. Absolutely. It's fantastic to have the Brampton Board of Trade as a great partner with us at the City of Brampton. I will have this motion moved by Councillor Santos that the delegation from Jay Paul be received.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. That carries. Thank you, Jay Paul.
Thank you all.
And if members of council could join us and do a picture with the group. Thank you, everyone. As we resume, next up is Delegation 6.4, delegation from Matt Johnson, Principal at Urban Solutions regarding items 9.2.6 and 9.4.1, Development Charges Incentive Program for Purpose-Built Rental Housing. Thank you, Matt, for your patience. I know we had a reorder here today, but I really appreciate you being patient, and you have up to 5 minutes to delegate.
Good morning. Morning, members of committee, staff, and the public. My name is Matt Johnston, registered professional planner with Urban Solutions. And today it's my privilege to be here on behalf of Rose Garden Investments LP, parent company Fengate Capital. And we're here on behalf of a development application at the intersections of Main, Nelson, and Church. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is a site and a project that checks all of the right boxes. The property is located just a stone's throw from City Hall, directly across from the GO station, really in the heart of downtown Brampton. Next slide. We're right within your urban growth center. Next slide. We're in your MTSA. Next slide. And what comes with this project is brownfield remediation. It comes with heritage integration on the facade on Main Street. And also, more importantly, it comes with 400 purpose-built residential units, purpose-built rental units. We've got 35-story tower and a 22-story tower on a mixed-use development. We're really excited to say that our building permit application for this phase was issued Monday on October 20th. Next slide. And what we really want to do is kind of commend staff and council for pursuing this program. And what we want to do is just refine it one more time. We appreciate this report's coming back a second time to allow accommodations for a 6-month extension. But what we see here is our construction timeline that takes us to 38 weeks plus a week. And that's assuming a perfect construction schedule with no unforeseen delays. It's an aggressive schedule, but it's one that you can expect with a building of this magnitude. And for that reason, we've got one specific request, if we can go to the next slide. And that's to apply or provide delegated authority to city staff to approve up to 2 6-month extensions for the subject development. And with that, we would be happy to provide construction update reports to demonstrate the steady progress that's being made. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. But you know, again, it's a very critical program. It's one that's coming at the right time. We're in sort of a generational housing crisis that this program is going to go a long way to addressing. And it just needs this final tweak to be able to do that. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, just speaking to the delegation, because after that, we will bring up the staff report. Mayor Brown.
Yeah, just to say, I believe there'll be an amendment coming to the report from Councillor Santos and Vicente to have give the planning commissioner discretion for a 6-month extension. You know, we obviously want things built as soon as possible, but I think your delegation request that, given the size and scope of the project, it could take longer is reasonable. I just want to highlight too that for those that don't know, Fengate is the wing of the Leuna Pension Fund, and so supporting Canadian pensions at the same time as helping solve the housing crisis is nice to see. And so we're grateful that you're investing in our community. I know Councillor Keenan spoke the last time we discussed this about being realistic about construction timetables and sort of some of the challenges on that construction timetable. And so I think if we delegated that discretion to the planning commissioner, we would be able to accommodate your concern. But maybe just give what I want to say. Could our planning commissioner respond to the request? His thoughts?
Sure, through the chair, through to you, Mayor Brown, certainly. And I know that the staff report is going to be brought forward shortly after this discussion here. So but in terms of the delegates' request for the 2 6-month extension, just for clarification, would that be a total of a year on top of what is recommended in the staff report?
that would be 2 6-month extensions from the 30 months. So 1 year from the 30, not 2 more on top of what staff are recommending. So, what's coming forward today goes one step further to provide the 6-month extension, but we know through our construction schedule that we're going to exceed that at 38 weeks. So I'm asking for not the 1 6-month extension that's contemplated in today's report. I'm asking for 2 extensions totaling a year.
Through the chair, if I could then just, so it's 2 extensions totaling 1 year on top of what is being recommended in today's staff report, or on top of what was previously recommended being 30 months?
Can I get just a total number of months you're looking for? We'll do the math.
1 year on top of the 30
Okay.
months.
42 months.
Correct.
Okay.
40, yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mayor Brown's right. Obviously, I strongly believe the program, incredible, we need it. We need the housing. If it's being built and we're talking about occupancy, some of these larger projects will need more time. Some of the smaller projects will need less time. I believe that there may be a happy medium here where it would give authority maybe to the commissioner on a project-by-project basis on a timeline, and it's not you get 6 months, you get 6 months, where we're giving a year to somebody who should be done in 14 months. But someone like yourself may need that extra. So I think there may be a caveat here of delegated authority to the commissioner to work with the individual stakeholder based on the project to give up to a certain amount of time. If you're halfway through a project, seeing delays based on something that may happen, like tariffs or so on and so forth, or COVID, for instance, we don't want to jeopardize the project. We're committed to it here at the City of Brampton. So I think there is something that we can do to get you that without it being a set timeline. And I think if Commissioner, you may want to jump on this.
Yeah. Through the chair, through to you, to Councillor Keenan. In reviewing the correspondence from the delegation, I believe they are looking for this request to be supplemented with some construction progress updates provided to me that, again, in consultation with the CAO, we would decide whether or not an extension would be warranted, rather than having to come back to council every time.
Yeah, so I would agree with that it be your decision based on the progress of the building. I don't necessarily think we need to put a timeline on it. If they may only need 3 months at that time, if they come and ask you for way more time, then you can just say, no, that's unacceptable. There may be reasons, so I'm just trying to leave it open that if there is something that happens, that you have the ability to do it, that it doesn't lose the funding.
So just, thank you, Councillor Keenan. Councillor Palashi, if it's a question to delegation, otherwise I will receive the delegation and then we can bring up the staff report. We can start addressing the staff report.
It's a procedural question. So thank you, Mr. Chair. No question to delegation. Procedurally, though, what do we have in front of us? We have a delegation that's making a request for one particular company, and we're not extending that to anyone else that's captured in the report. And if so, then that would be.
I think my understanding is the request is for the whole program, not just for your project.
It's not a question to the delegation. Okay. It's a question to members and to staff.
That was my understanding based on the letter that is there in the correspondence and the delegation, that they're showing their example and asking that the program have the flexibility or additional terms in the program itself, not just particular to their project.
So I'm happy to move, receive the delegation, and then I'm sure we're gonna have finance come up and talk about this added.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you. With that, I have a motion moved by Mayor Brown, or
If I could, through the chair, just to be clear on the ask, it was specific to the subject proposal, because I do understand the councillor's concern that, 2 additional extensions on a small scale project may not be appropriate.
Okay.
Whereas one of this magnitude, it is. So it was on a site-specific basis.
Okay, I have questions from Councilor Palashi then.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your delegation. Who at the city have you talked to about this prior to the coming forward and delegating? You've had conversations with staff and members of council?
We have had conversations with staff. We have had other team members have consultation with some of the councillors.
Which councillors have you had discussions with?
I haven't had those discussions
team, part of
directly.
your team.
So our team has. So I wouldn't be able to speak to those specifically. Okay. Over the course of the project, we've had great support from Councillor Santos. We've had great support from Mayor Brown.
100%,
but on
just on this, what you're delegating here today, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had those directly, I can't quite confirm who's been contacted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your delegation.
Okay, and thank you. With that, I have a motion moved by Mayor Brown to receive this delegation. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. That carries. Thank you for your delegation.
Great, thank you.
Mayor Brown, do you want to bring up the staff report at this time? So it's staff report item 9.2.6. And actually alongside it with this, we also have correspondences 9.4.1 that has 3 letters that were also held by Councillor Palashi. So Mayor Brown followed by Councillor Palashi.
Yeah, so we have this report, and I think it's obviously sparked a lot of interest. I believe it's going to help us hit our BFF targets, and the city will benefit from $25 million in funding or more. And so I think this is significant. I do have a note from the planning commissioner on the recommendation to raise the cap to 5,000, and I believe Councillor Santos and Vasante have amendment coming too. And so I'd like to move that we raise the cap to 5,000 from 2,000 when we receive this report. And maybe the clerk can work on that procedural wording while the discussion happens about the report.
Okay, Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would love to hear from Finance about this this request, and then also to staff if we can check the who on the lobbyist registry has lobbied for this particular item.
Through the chain, Councillor.
Sorry, just on this request, how does finance think about this?
Yeah, so
what have you looked at?
Through the chair, Councillor, in the report, we have covered that each 1,000 units is about an estimate between $9 and $18 million, depends on the mix of units that materialize at the end for this. 5,000 units would be around $45 to $90 million in discounted DCs. In the report, we also talk about that seeing where the historical level of PBR in the city of Brampton is. We looked at the past 15 years, and we found that it's only about 160 units per year that we have in PBR development, and so on. And this has been chronic for almost 30 years now, and so on. So if the incentive program actually incentivizes this enough to bring a huge number of PBR units online and so on, then it's fair to say that those are incremental to what we have been seeing in Brampton for the past historic years on this and so on. And that can result in additional assessment growth that's incremental to what we would have expected otherwise, and we recommend that that assessment growth is used towards repaying those discounted DCs for the incentives.
Interesting. Okay. Of the increase, are we talking size of units yet, or are we saying like that up to 5,000? Are you going to say that they have to be 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, or is it a mix? Is it, you're gonna do the same mix as the 2,000? I think that's directed more to Mayor Brown.
Steve, can you?
Through the chair, through to Councillor Pelletier, if council chooses to raise the ceiling to up to 5,000, they would be subject to the same parameters as the previous 2,000. And if I could just provide a little bit of commentary on my thoughts about council's consideration of raising the ceiling from 2,000 to 5,000 is twofold. One, there has been significant interest since council's launch of this program from a combination of folks in the industry, those that we know, like the delegate that are pulling permits, and then those that are maybe on the cusp of looking at this program, and then further this consideration of raising the ceiling to 5,000 units would move the needle, the city's needle, in a better position to qualify for the BFF funding for 2025.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Nash. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tour, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for switching the spots with me. This is a report under corporate services, so just questions regarding this report here and raising the cap from 2,000 to 5,000. When I read in the report about the 2,000 units, could you just summarize again what is we had a lower limit of potential DCs that are discounted, the upper limit. Could you just state those numbers again?
For sure. So, through the chair, Councillor, those estimates are based on this number of units, and they vary between the lower and the higher limit based on what actually materializes with the mix of units, the types of mix of units that would make that. So on the lower end, the 2,000 units would be around $17.5 million. In overall DC incentives provided, and on the higher level, they would be around $36.7 million, and so on. So the actual number will probably be somewhere in between, but those are the really two extremes there.
Okay, and if you could just restate the timelines for repayment that would come from this incremental growth property tax that would go into the DC reserve? Like how many years would it take from the lower end to the higher end?
It would take, through the chair, Councillor, it would take between 7 and 14 years, depending on whether we're on this end or that end of the spectrum.
Okay, so for 7 to 14 years, the property tax that gets generated out of the 2,000 units that was previously on the report, that for 7 to 14 years, it would not go into the general, where all the other property tax money that gets collected towards all the city's operational capital, any other costs that go through, it wouldn't fund that for 7 to 14 years. So even though we're paying back the DC reserve, depending on how you look at it, it's either you're getting discounted for no property tax 7 to 14 years, or you're getting the DCs waived upfront. How do these numbers and the repayment translate with the 5,000 units? If you could state the lower limit, upper limit on the dollar value, and how many years it would take for repayment.
For 5,000 units, through the chair, Councillor, for 5,000 units, this number would go to, on the lower end, to about $45 million, and on the higher end, to about $90 million. The repayment period, because we're also assuming that the assessment grows at the same rate, the repayment period remains the same. Yeah,
Relatively the same, 7 to 14 years. It's no surprise, I've spoken about this before as well. We don't have the guarantees on the Building Faster Fund, or the half funding allocation that we already have has been further allocated, even for the next round of funding that we will be getting. Unless, if council is also willing to, and maybe a question for Mayor Brown on this, if we're willing to commit that the next uncommitted dollars from the half funding, or if we potentially get the Build Faster Fund, whenever that gets announced, if the first repayment could be made towards the DC reserves before we allocate that to any housing projects. That at least gives us a certainty that if this money comes, which again, I'm always skeptical about some levels of government, but if that money does come through, that it should get allocated towards repaying the DCs before anything else. And if that, is that possible? Like, is that, like, we have mechanism to do that, right?
Mayor Brown,
That's just a question for Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Councilor Tour. Mayor Brown.
What I say is, I think the half funding is a little bit different because it's a list of projects we submit to the federal government, and we have submitted a list. Now each year we can provide new ones. The Building Faster Fund is I think an appropriate discussion. Could that go directly into reserves? The federal budget is coming out November 4th. Is it November 4th or around then?
Yeah.
And there's going to be, supposedly, there's all this rumors, there's, you know, the government promised in the last election DC incentive fund. There may be an application process there that we can apply to. I'd say knowing, sure, you don't want to put a square into a circle. I think I get what you're saying, and maybe at the time when we know what the dynamics are, we can put forward a motion. I also believe we're talking about revenue that was not coming to the city as well. So just as we have this conversation, I know we have to work within the legal frameworks of the DC laws in Ontario, but this is revenue that is not, we're gonna get some revenue when no revenue is coming in. And so that, just be mindful of that in the background.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Brown. No, I do understand that context, and we've debated that on council multiple times, but it would just give that certain level of guarantee, similar to City of Mississauga that has dedicated their half funding to the 50% DC discounts that they're doing in the city. If we have the mechanism to do it, we should be able to do it for the half funding and also for the BFF to ensure that those dollars can directly go to this. Again, like another level of certainty that it would give me to support this would be if, you know, the development industry put up their hand and says, we're willing to defer our DCs pending we get those checks from the two levels of government that will pay into the DC reserve. If we don't get those checks, the developers are still on the hook to pay the DCs because someone's going to pay for it. It's a great idea in principle, but if that property tax that's generated from these units are going to pay for this DC reserve for 7 to 14 years, it's not fair to the rest of the residents in the city to be carrying the burden for 7 to 14 years on services and the additional services that we're going to require in the city. So if you have 5,000 new units that come on live and you need more support in your community services, in your transit services, in any kind of, in more bylaw enforcement, what have you, the rest of the city is still paying for that for 7 to 14 years. Do you think my understanding of that is right?
Through the chair, Councillor, you're correct. It is possible to use half funding and BFF towards this at council's direction. Mississauga, as you said, that's how they presented that they would be making up for any DC discount through the half funding. We would have to inform the province of that and get their approvals for it, but technically it is possible.
Okay, but again, just to restate that, it would give me that level of confidence if, you know, the development industry that is eager to build puts up their hand and says that we're willing to take the shot on this, and if we get our DCs deferred till the time that the provincial or the federal government comes to the city with more money, and if that check comes through, you get a DC discount, and if that doesn't come through, you're still going to have to pay the DCs. That's my position on this. So based on that, the motion that I see on here, I will not be supportive of this. And I would still, if this stays the motion that's on the screen, then I would request a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Duro. I have Commissioner who just wanted to comment before you get off.
If I could, just for council's indulgence, I would, just because the topic of half funding has come up and it's mentioned in the report as a potential tool to fill the gap, I would be remiss if I didn't inform council of some late-breaking conversations that staff have had with CMHC as of this week. For council be reminded that when the city executed the agreement with the federal government on the half funding, the federal government held the city accountable to fulfilling certain deliverables and milestones within a certain time frame. a bucket of those, or one particular milestone involving our comprehensive zoning bylaw is of great interest to the federal government, and the federal government has indicated that if that zoning bylaw is not endorsed by council by January of next year, our third and fourth installments, the amount that we similarly get could be in jeopardy. So I just putting that out there for council's awareness, only because we are talking about half funding.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we have Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, this is great conversations. Obviously, we're all looking at ways to try to get homes built. So kudos to everyone that's doing it. Supportive of, if we have the industry saying that they want to build it, you know, obviously want to support it. I do have a couple questions because I'm not a planner. You know, DCs are not I'm not a lawyer. So I've been trying to get some crash courses in DCs. You know, a conversation came up that because of this type of DC that wouldn't maybe need to be repaid back. Is that something that's true, or is that just because the purpose-built rental, or is there anything there that we don't need to repay this DC legally? I'm
Yeah.
going to ask that question and get confirmation from you so that I can move on from that.
Through the chair, unfortunately, it's sort of half a legislation, in that we have the authority to reduce without triggering a background study, but we still, through the rest of the act, are still required to, you know, plug this hole or have a framework or a plan for plugging the hole. And legal services is of the opinion that what's contemplated in this report more than satisfies that requirement. But yeah, so the recent legislation, all it did was allow you to reduce your DCs without a commensurate background study.
So
for this matter.
right. So my question is specifically, do we need to pay it back for these? If you just can give me a yes or no.
At some point, the hole has to be filled, but the short answer is yes. Like,
Okay.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
okay.
Now, can I just get the dollar value on the 5,000 units?
Sorry, Councillor, through the chair, you're asking how much is the amount again?
How much would we have to repay on 5,000 units?
For sure. So on 5,000 units, the range would be between $45 million and $90 million.
Okay. Back to my crash courses on DCs. I was also told that we could open up our DC bylaw, look at some projects we may have overlooked at the time, to say, hey, this might be able to be pushed out, or maybe we estimated too high, or whatever the case may be, and see that and was told, again, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, that if we did do that, and we reduced it by the amounts that we're trying to save, then that would offset us needing to repay back anything. And we say repay. I've been told it's not really a repay, it's making sure that the money's there, so. I
Through
just
the
wanna
chair,
be-
through the chair, and I'm comfortable giving this advice in an open forum because it's very general advice. In our opinion, that would require a more scoped, like a background study, because you are reducing it across the board. As per my previous appearance before this council, there's a general area of risk of someone's that, you know, for the past couple of years has been developers that have submitted projects that, hey, I didn't get my incentive. And we know that sometime that argument is made to the city. To inoculate the city against that, we would recommend that a broader based DC reduction, if it were ever to be considered, that we would have some sort of scoped background study that would say, okay, well, you know what, our transit numbers are way down. You know, we may not need this rec center. We may not, and scoped background studies are something that the industry has been using for decades.
Okay. So housing's important, both, you know, for everybody, it's important to get these units to fix a need that we all know we have, which is rentals, and get people out of basements and into these. You know, and realistically, we had a delegation here today knowing that even though we're building these, we're not gonna see them for 3-4 years. We got a need today, so I do We want to make sure we're keeping open conversations about things that can be built today as well, people that are service ready to put, you know, houses or whatever in play. But I'll leave my stuff there for now. I'm good with this for now. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. Councillor Santos, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure, and I do support the motion that is tabled. But I just want to make sure, because we have a delegation. Now, here's the situation. I have seen this project of the Rose Garden since I was elected in 2018 and trying to push development of that site. And now when you drive by it, there are shovels in the ground and things are happening. At the same time, like some of my colleagues have mentioned, the project is a massive project, which is going to take a lot more time, more so than some other projects, considering delays in construction that may happen in the future. It is one of the only projects in downtown Brampton right now that is purpose-built rental, that was always purpose-built rental, that is happening. So just question to staff on clause number 2 about the timing and delegated authority with the flexibility to allow the occupancy limit to go beyond, like, I to Councillor Keenan's point, setting a maximum of 36 months might be too constrictive for major projects like this one. Is there any advice that you may have to accommodate what we discussed and debated on the timing?
Through the chair, through to Councillor Santos, upon reflection of the submission from the delegation and, you know, listening to council, a friendly amendment could be a maximum of 36 months to be approved by council with a comma, and then a one-time 6-month extension based upon construction progress, submissions, and I would say construction progress and scale to the commissioner, and in consultation with the CAO. This would avoid having to come back to council every single time. You can appreciate both scale and timelines change, weather, supply, labor, all sorts of things.
Trade war.
Are unpredictable. But I would not at this point in time feel comfortable advising council to go beyond the one-time 6-month.
Okay, awesome. So if the mover of the motion can take that as a friendly, I think that might accommodate some of the concerns for major projects, which is one of the only ones in purpose-built rental in downtown right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. Mayor Brown, you have the floor.
Oh, sorry, to accept that as a friendly. And maybe on Councillor Torr's suggestion, we could have a staff report back on the tools available to supplement reserves. And I think we'll have a better indication after November 4th. If that's agreeable, Councillor Torr.
Councillor Torr.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that, Mayor Brown. Just have a couple more questions. The delegation asked for 42 months. I only see 36 on there. But attached to the report was also how many units that have already expressed interest. Commissioner Ganesh, could you just quickly brief us over that? How many units have come forward? How many are still in the pipeline? I saw a number greater than 5,000.
Sure. Through the chair, through to you to Councillor Torr. So in terms of purpose-built rental units, so far our inventory total pipeline is 5,544. To date, 1,100 of those have been committed. The schedule that's appended in the report speaks to that, but the schedule was prepared at a point in time. The schedule kind of changes daily because each day applicants are coming forward with permits and whatnot. So the total changes daily. We do keep track of that on a weekly basis and communicate that to our finance folks. So that's why when you look at the total amount that's in our pipeline right now of 5,544, I'm comfortable recommending to council that the cap be raised to 5,000. if you want, if council chose to go higher than that, a bit higher than that, I'd certainly at the will of
That
council.
was gonna be my next
Yeah.
question.
5,000
Why you
sounded
stop at
just
5,000, not at
5,500.
Like, that was a question, like, why is there a reason at 5,000?
It's a fair question, Councillor Tour, and one I anticipated. While the pipeline represents what I would say fairly mature members of the development industry, I can't guarantee that all of them will come to fruition. So with that in mind, 5,000 was a safe, conservative estimate on my part, but I certainly act at the will of council.
Understood, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tour. Seeing no one on the board, we have a motion. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Chair, just number 5, the bylaw will be as amended. We'll just add in as amended. Yes, as amended by the recommendations in this motion today.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for the clarification. So we have a motion on the screen as seen for a recorded vote. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Chair, recorded vote on the motion on the screen. All in favor, please stand. I see Councillor Medeiros, Councillor Power, Mayor Brown, Deputy Mayor Singh, Councillor Brar, Councillor Keenan, Councillor Palashi, Councillor Vicente. And all those opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Santos, you're in favor? And those opposed? I see Councillor Tour. Councillor Fortini online, how do you vote?
In favor, please.
And that motion is carried, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we'll be going on to, is that government relations, Madam Clerk? Okay. Now we'll be going to 7.1, government relations, held by Councillor Santos. Okay. And before we go on to that, we're just going to receive the correspondence received by Mayor Brown. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. Now we'll go on to government relations, and Councillor Santos, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Unless other members of council would like the presentation, no. I only had one thing to mention on government relations, which was that during question period, on the first day of question period, local Brampton MPPs, I believe, had their numbers wrong with respect to ASC cameras in Brampton, the tickets that were processed. Just a note for the record for a correction. I believe one of the MPPs said that one camera in Brampton issued 32,000 tickets. A question to staff, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, Councillor Santos, that is not a correct figure. We have done our data, and it's very wrong.
Okay, and so can we just maybe from, I don't know, Legislative Service or GR, send a correction officially to let them know that that was incorrect and that we would like a correction made based on the real data in the city of Brampton versus made up numbers where, any idea where they got that number from? I'm hearing that they got it confused with Vaughan. So the Brampton MPPs used Vaughan data to ask a question about Brampton cameras? Sorry, I'm confused. Okay, so if we can send a letter asking the Legislative Assembly or somehow make a correction on the record that the data they have is incorrect. We would like clarification on where they got the data, and if they would like real data from the city of Brampton on the success of our program, they can read all the reports that we've already issued that is evidence database proven decision making. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. We have a motion moved by Councillor Councillor Toure, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question on that. What mechanism would that be? to what Councillor Santos has just said? Like, would this go to the Legislative Assembly? Does anybody right now know what that mechanism is to get it corrected in the Assembly record? Any former MPP here?
Through the chair, Councillor, we would issue a letter to the MPPs in question and CC the Legislative Assembly.
Okay, so would that go to the Speaker as well?
The clerk.
It should, right? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Tour. Seeing no one on the board, we have a motion moved by Councillor Santos. All in favor? Oh, Mayor Brown, you have the floor.
One comment. I received a briefing from Legislative Services this week that I found very intriguing. And that was that our cameras have the capacity to issue tickets for red lights and for souped up mufflers. I know we've had a problem with both in the city of Brampton. It does require provincial permission to be able to process and issue them. I spoke to the Premier about it yesterday, and he said he was very open to that. So this could be an opportunity. Obviously, I know we've got staff that are probably very worried about their employment. There's people concerned about we've lost a tool to deal with dangerous driving. And so while we all fundamentally believe speed cameras have a purpose, I think it doesn't hurt at the same time to seek guidance if we could provide that service. And so maybe GR or Legislative Services can report back to all the council if we have the permission to do so. And then council can make a decision if that's something we want to pursue.
Is there something wrong?
No, there's something wrong.
Thank you. I think we were just having some technical difficulties. Now we'll go on to, thank you, Councillor, Mayor Brown, would you like to finish off?
Okay, great. I'm not sure if what was not said on the record, but I would like to seek guidance and report back to council from GR or Legislative Services on this capacity to use cameras for red light and noisy mufflers. And that does not rescind our interest to continue to deal with reckless drivers who are speeding at scary rates. But I like to know the feasibility of those uses as well. Feasibility.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. We have Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Councillor Santos' comments that you were confused, I don't think it's you, I think it's the province. You know, I did see the video myself, wasn't happy about it, and I knew the information in it was wrong. They left a lot of good information out, which is all the reports that shows that it's working in the city of Brampton. Also, the reports that show that, you know, we're not doing it the way that other people were, like Toronto and Vaughan, and we were doing it the way it's supposed to be done, which actually makes our roads safer. So I was very also concerned that they threw us in the same bucket as other municipalities that may have been using it to collect monies and seen an opportunity, which is not what we did here at the city of Brampton. So I was very discouraged to see that from our local MPPs. And to Mayor Brown's comments, of course, we would, we've spent the money on the cameras if we have other uses for them. I would say let's ask the province, but let's not forget the province was the one who told us we could use the cameras in the beginning and when we spent our money, and now being told that we can't use them. So I don't have high hopes that we will get them to be used as red cameras or noise camera for mufflers. But I would say a few things. One is I don't want to remove them. Maybe we stop ticketing, but we keep them there to collect the data to show the province how it's going to reverse all the hard work that we have done. So if we don't get permissions, let's keep running them, just not issue fines, so we can collect that data. And my next point would be, we just sat here listening to all the jobs that are being lost across Canada on tariffs. I haven't had one statement about how many jobs will be lost across the province when this is reversed. I wonder if the Premier would stand on a podium and make those remarks. I highly doubt it. But anyways, those are just my comments on this. If we can use the cameras for something else, great, but I'm not holding my breath. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. Councillor Palashi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's lots that I'd like to say, but I'm going to, just gonna wait. Just on the cameras, they're not our cameras. We rent them, release them. So, just if staff's going to work with that, bring something back to us, that's basically says, what's that look like, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Palashi. Councillor Santos.
Thank you, Madam Chair, just for a second time, because Councillor Keenan reminded me of something. The first thing is that the legislation has not yet been passed officially yet. And I'm assuming hopefully we'll get a briefing from staff at some point soon, briefing note on what that legislation looks like, the timelines, et cetera. I know it's in an omnibus bill of some sort, buried, to make it difficult to not pass. Nonetheless, it's not over quite yet. And the other thing is, Councillor Keane, you brought a good point, and I just want to give a huge shout out to all the employees at the ASC Processing Center and all of you who are doing the tough work on this and have been, particularly Michael Krault and team, because it is impressive what we have done and very thoughtful what we have done in implementing this program in the city of Brampton in order to make our streets safer. When I go on my resident walkabouts, the residents that I visited last week on Linkdale and Kingswood were baffled as to why the province would want to remove their camera in front of Kingswood Public School. And in fact, Councillor Palashi and I spoke about this in the previous council. They wanted a camera on Linkdale as well because of the speeding and cut-through traffic on Linkdale. Parents are not happy, and maybe they're not as vocal right now, but I guarantee you, once those cars start speeding again, threatening the lives of their children, they will be really loud. So just a reminder, legislation has not yet passed, so I appreciate the feasibility study on all the other uses of it, but until that happens, I don't think we should do anything else yet. And then also a shout out to the workers who've been working so hard on this program.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. We have Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you very much through you, Madam Chair. I think Councillor Palashi, regarding the use, I think hit the nail on the head. We're leasing it, so I'm not sure how that impacts it for other uses. But Councillor Santos also made an important point regarding the legislation hasn't been introduced, because my understanding wasn't just repealing cameras, was also putting forward some form of a program or incentive or alternative. And I think, we've always taken that approach, and I've been taken aback by some of the MPPs in terms of their reaction and simple sort of simplicity of the message about being a cash grab. I was on Y Media, and it was interesting that I had a minister text in saying that it was a simple cash grab when we were talking about cameras. And I think, my perspective has always been, and I think many of us, if there's a better, more effective way, let us know what it is. And we're happy to do it. I'm not happy, people are upset about getting tickets. However, we did see change. What I do find surprising is that we haven't had, you know, I haven't been contacted by other levels or my fellow MPPs or even MPs to sort of consult with me about the area, because ultimately we serve the same residents. So they would want their safety as well. So I'm hoping that, you know, when the legislation does come forward, that we reconvene, but I'd be interested to see what is the impact and what type of incentive program they're going to put forward to have those speed cameras and, speed bumps and those other things, because I think that's important, you know, regardless of what they do, what is going to be in the place of. I just find now the idea of having a city full of speed bumps, you know, it's not the most attractive, and but who knows? Yes.
Oh, your mic is on. Oh, there you go.
Is that better? Yeah. Just through the chair, the legislation was introduced yesterday, and I believe it's at second reading, which is occurring today. It does not include any announcements at this point in terms of the funding. I think that would come at a separate point for other traffic calming measures. I know the province has indicated that those will be forthcoming, but those are not included at this point in time.
Oh, thank you. And we have no indication when they would bring in those other measures or introduce some form of a program of some sort.
Through the chair to Councilor Medeiros. At this point, the city has received outreach by MTO regarding, as part of the legislation and the mandate that will repeal ASEs, and the Premier had made public comments. The city is going to be mandated to actually put in signage by November 15th. We have received outreach from MTO on that with no further details, but in terms of a broader program and to look at other incentive measures such as speed bumps, while the province has indicated that there's something coming forward, we have not received any indication on what that program would look like or the scope or scale of it.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. And just lastly, not to take up much time, but I did see that Police Association did provide the feedback that they were in favor of speed cameras. So it would be interesting to see if there's any use for the speed cameras. Like, for example, Peel Police, maybe that's a discussion of how they would be able to utilize these cameras and sort of if there's some financial means to make us whole, but at the same time contribute to, I guess, more security in the community. But I'll look forward to see what comes back. But thank you for all your work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Medeiros. Councillor Palacio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, just building off of what Councilor Medeiros' opening comments were, and that being the only factor that the province wants to take the ability away from us, I'm happy to move a motion that all funds that come in from tickets go to Women's Shelter, go back to the province if they want it, or to any not-for-profits that we choose, or if the Premier wants to choose any not-for-profits. So then that way there is no funding that's coming into the city of Brampton. Because ultimately I think what we want is the safer streets, safer communities, safety for our kids, and that's really the only reason why we're doing this. So I'm happy to move that motion that all funding that comes in from tickets funds go to the province or a charity of their choice. Happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Palacio. Madam Clerk, do we have Councillor Palacio's motion? Maybe we can do that right after Councillor Santos' motion. Okay, perfect. So we'll. Oh, our CEO, you have the floor.
Sorry, just a point of clarification. Is that revenues after expenses? No? Okay.
Councillor Palacio, they're just having your motion on the screen. Just want to make sure that is correct, the wording. And we'll go to back to Councillor Santos first. So we have, so we have a motion on the screen moved by Councillor Santos. All in favor? There's two motions on the screen. We're just going with Councillor Santos' motion at this time. So go on with Councillor Santos' motion. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, that motion carries. Now on to Councillor Paleshi's motion.
What lost? Oh, no. Premier's choice instead of council's choice, premier's choice, or provincial, the province's choice?
We'll give it a couple minutes before we start.
I'd like to hear what Mayor Brown and Deputy Mayor, two heads of council, have to say.
So Mayor, Deputy Mayor, you have the floor. Mayor Brown, would you want to go first?
I understand the intent, and I think it's clever. The only thing I would say is maybe we should get a report back, just because there's a lot of costs. But it's, I think we should look at it. I think it should happen, actually, but I think we should get a report back. Because there may be contracts or revenue may be used to offset costs. So just to have that information so we're making the most informed decision. But I do like the spirit of it and understand the spirit of it. So I'll just maybe at budget, but I'll let the mayor add in.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mayor Brown?
Yeah, I would say I get the intent to sort of show to the Premier that it's not a cash grab, but maybe you could say after expenses repaid as a friendly, that if the Premier decides to keep the speed enforcement program, that any funds collected after expenses repaid goes to charity.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Councillor Santos?
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. Yes, I think the cost recovery is important for sure to be considered, but also just a reminder to folks, we did pass a motion that the surplus would go back to road safety and traffic calming initiatives already. So I don't know how then that this would fit. But yeah. True. Anyway.
Councillor Sanchez, you're okay with the motion on the screen?
Yeah, I'm fine with the motion of the screen, would love to give it back to charity, would love for it to go back into road safety, traffic calming measures, any other options to demonstrate that this is not about cities making revenue, that this is about safety.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. Madam Clerk, are we just give it a couple of minutes before we begin? Thank you, Madam Clerk. We just want some clarity on the last section. Councillor Palashi? So I'll just read out the motion just to make sure everyone's comfortable with this motion. That staff be requested to report on the potential of all surplus revenue following coverage of costs collected in relation to camera speed enforcement and that would otherwise be allocated to the city be redirected to road safety initiatives and or charities of choice. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we already direct the funds to road safety initiatives. So I'd like to take that out. I didn't really want to get into this, but we know road safety initiatives. We've been doing it for, as long as I've been a counselor, we've been doing it. We also have that data. We know what works and what doesn't work. And what works is the cameras. If you want the money, take the money to the province. Don't leave it, don't let us not have it. You can take the rest of it. You already take some of it, so take the rest of it. If you don't want it, give it to a charity. But don't keep it, we're not gonna keep it here, so I don't wanna put it in road safety initiatives. You wanna leave it as charities of of the choice of the province. You want to have a report back, fine. I'll settle on having that report back, that's fine. But don't start playing with, you know, the funds where, you know, we can pay for this person to work at that when, no. The money that's coming in from a ticket, that is the money that doesn't already go to the province, now goes to either charity, women's shelter, food cupboard, regen, anything like that, or give it back to or give it to the province. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pelletier. We have the motion on the screen, Councillor Pelletier. Just want to make sure.
No, I don't think that's necessary.
Mayor Brown, you have the floor.
Councillor Keenan's point, I think that actually is relevant, that it currently all goes to road safety. Part of the provincial contention is that some cities don't put it into road safety, it goes into general revenue. And
Back in the report. Please, it's now taking away from the original motion. Take out following coverage of costs, collected in relation to the speed camera enforcement.
report back.
Report back
We'll keep it to report back.
on all revenue, take out surplus.
Councillor Pelletier, you want to speak on it? Just to fix it.
It's deleted, it's just taking a moment to show.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Yeah. Collect in relation to camera speed enforcement.
For everybody, it's messy for the public.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll just read it out just to clarify the motion. So we have a motion moved by Councillor Pelletier that the staff be directed to report on the potential of all revenue collected in relation to camera speed enforcement that would otherwise be allocated to the city be directed to charities of choice,
Of the Premier's choice.
of the Premier's choice. Thank you, Councillor Pelletier. Thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Pelletier. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our next item is 8.5, Councillor questions for Economic Development section. Any questions? Seeing none, then we'll go to 8.6, Public Question Period. Madam Clerk, do we have any questions online or in person?
Through you, Chair, there are no questions online.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our corporate services section. We have 9.2.3, which was held by Councillor Tu. Councillor Tu, you have the floor. Nine point 2.3. Capital Projects Financial Status Report.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. In this report, the HAF funding and the Build Faster Fund are shown as uncommitted. Could you just explain why is that uncommitted? Because my understanding is they're all fully committed.
Through the chair, Councillor, this table shows projects that have been budgeted, which is the complete HAF funding at BFF. But it also takes away from that anything that's been spent or has been committed through purchase orders. Because of the nature of the HAF funding and BFF fund, we cannot issue POs to reduce that. So that's why it shows until they get actually paid out, based on the allocations that we talked about, they show as still uncommitted.
I just wanted that on the record for public information, because when you read the report, it does give that misunderstanding that those funding, that funding has not been allocated or committed to any project. We've had multiple projects that it's been committed to. So whether it isn't even through this report, because it'll get ratified at council, if there could be like an asterisk that says these two funding sources are fully committed. And whenever it gets allocated, that it'll reflect at that point as well, but at least it's not listed as uncommitted funds. There was a table that showed that, and to me it was alarming, just reading that saying $68 million from half funding and $17 million from BFF was not committed yet. So Commissioner Ganesh?
Through the chair, through to Councillor Tor, the treasurer's description is on point and accurate, and I might suggest that future reports also have that disclaimer for contribution agreements or any developer contribution type projects that are in the capital program that where POs have not been issued as well, because it, to some degree, it skews the uncommitted story, and in many cases, that the money's there, just we're waiting for a PO.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It just creates a little added transparency to it, which is fantastic what you see in this report, but for general public to read through this and understand, they shouldn't have to ask a question to know what's happening with those uncommitted funds. It should say it right there. So even if, when it comes back to council, if it could reflect on that, but definitely in future reports, if we can have that highlighted.
Through the chair, thank you for the feedback, and I agree, like, it can be misread. We'll make sure that it's very clarified in future reports.
Yeah, because I got excited. I was like, we can pay back the DCs. We got so much money sitting here, right? So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you thank you, Councillor Tour. We have a motion moved by Councillor Tour to approve the recommendations in the staff report. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. Our next item is 9.10, held by Councillor Paleshi. You have the floor. GTA Transmission Corridor and Heritage Heights Secondary Plan Area.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know it was kind of rushed through, so try and give some Cole's notes, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong at all, but I've been on this file since 2014, and so essentially the 413 it came in to play. Things get changed here and there and reduced. There's a scope within the 413, which includes the 413 and a transmission corridor, and that area is called the FAA. And over the years, it was it started out massive, and then it's shrunken narrower and narrower, and then through the secondary plan of Heritage Heights, where all the landowners meet with city staff, we go to the public and we work on what Heritage Heights is going to look like when we start to build. And then we go through that process with public input, and then that is a secondary plan, and it's actually it was one of the largest secondary plans, I think, in Canada at the time, with the amount of landowners and area coverage. So then that gets appealed, of course. There was 23 appellants, I think, something like that. Goes to the OLT. Everybody here knows what the OLT is. The Ontario Land Tribunal. They make the decision based off of negotiations with the city and with the landowners, and they come up with, a decision. That decision has been made. And then the province decided to circumvent that OLT decision by removing the transmission corridor right out of the FAA and now impacting wetlands, natural heritage features. It's further fragmenting water courses. It goes through the Jehovah's Witness temple, goes through our lands, the Paretta lands, which is connected to the Siemens property, which we have plans for that as well. It goes through a couple barns, goes through a couple woodlots. It's something that completely took everybody by surprise last Friday when they just decided to post this. I think they just decided to post it on their website. I don't even think anybody really got a phone call. So I think with the amount of correspondence that we've received from the landowners and from Credit Valley Conservation Authority, and Credit Valley Conservation Authority really put together and really looked at what this truly means, what impact this has on the environment. And they looked at it with great detail, and it's a very good letter that they've sent to us, and they continue to work on, you know, the limited funds that CVCs or CAs have to work on these types of things. So I thank them for doing what they've done so far. So I'd really like to maybe just flip it over to Commissioner Ganesh on a go forward. You know, we certainly need the direction and support from this council and from Mayor Brown to see what we can do with respect to not only putting this back in the transmission, the FAA, but not undoing everything that staff and you know, money and time and everything has been put forward to this. In the report, it does say staff sees that it probably puts a 6-month delay. That's just from staff's point of view though, right? So you have to look at it from the landowner's point of view. It's closer, it's more like 4 to 5 years that this puts us down, because it's going back to the table. This is the southern portion of Heritage Heights, so it affects everything going up. And where are we going to put other things now? Like, it's all negotiating with those landowners need to do that, and the farmers and stuff. So we really think that it, you know, replaces Heritage Heights secondary plan back to, I think this is the 5th time that it'll have a reset if it goes that way. And you know, it's 4 to 5 years when we're really trying to build houses, and at a time that's so crucial to build homes. So if Steve, you want to add anything, or on a go forward the direction that should come out of council today?
Sure. Through the chair, through to you, Councillor Palashi, I think you summarized it well. I will note 2 things. One, just kudos to Vikram and Shannon, who really crushed it to get this report in a timely manner. Typical provincial style, this matter came out on the Friday before Thanksgiving, when most people had their eyes on turkey, not the ERO posting website. But thanks to staff who worked diligently to get this report on the front and center for council. What the report does recommend is that council take a fairly significant advocacy position to get the province to basically, if you look at page 3 of the report, and I don't know if the clerk can pull that up on the screen, put the yellow line back into the blue line, basically put the transmission corridor where it should go within the FAA that Councillor Palashi spoke to. That would allow for the development to occur per the approved secondary plan by the OLT. It would certainly allow staff to continue working collaboratively with the landowners and other key stakeholders. And if I could just suggest that it would really, any deviation from the blue and entertainment of the yellow alignment on figure 2 and 1 there by the province would not only set us back at least 6 months, it would add tremendous red tape to development approvals, install, is it 40 some odd thousand housing units and about 55,000 jobs in total in Heritage Heights. It would definitely stall a particular precinct plan that would account for close to 19,000 people and 1,200 jobs, in addition to making those significant environmental impacts that Councillor Palashi indicated. So, you know, perhaps a letter authored by, whether it's a combination of the mayor and Councillor Palashi as chair of planning to the province, speaking about some of our concerns, and that a copy of this report be sent to the province, Brampton MPs, etc.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks to Mayor Brown, that's also been involved in some of the discussions, and maybe if Mayor, you have any comments.
I absolutely support writing this letter. I've spoken to the Minister of Energy about it, and I believe this would be very damaging for jobs and housing. I think our planning department really viewed this change as out of left field and inconsistent with the planning we have for housing and jobs in this corridor. And so I think this letter is important, and hopefully our GR effort can supplement the planning points explaining why this would be bad public policy.
Okay, so I don't know if we need to
Th-
put anything up.
Thank you. Councillor Plush, do you have anything
Thank you,
else?
Chair. Just on that.
Thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Palashi to approve the recommendations in the staff report. And to also, maybe we can bring forward the correspondence 9.4.2, 1, 2, and 3 to receive and with approval of the report. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Our next item is for councillor question period. Any questions? Seeing none. Public 9.6, public question period. Madam Clerk, do we have any questions online?
Through you, Chair, there are no questions online at this time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sylvia. I'm a resident of Ward 3. This is on the State of Local Infrastructure Report. Previously, the city in these reports has included 10-year capital spend, what we need to spend to ensure assets are in a state of good repair, and what we are actually spending on that. In the transportation state of repair report earlier this year, it also showed that. And then it also showed how we're actually going to we're going to build this new housing, and not only is it going to pay for the DSEs, but then we're going to take the property tax revenue that should be allocated to repairing that infrastructure and spending it to repairing infrastructure in other parts of the city. So this used to be part of the reports, and it's not part of this report, and I have no idea why. And that's useful information to council to see, oh, hey, there is this gap, and keep that in mind when you're about to go into the budget period. And if you see, actually, there's a $100 million hole in the budget for where we need to spend on that, that's kind of useful for figuring out how much your infrastructure levy should be for the budget. So could someone explain why this is no longer in the report where previously it was in the reports?
Thank you, Sylvia Roberts. Maybe staff want to comment, or would they like to email and correspondence with that? Any staff? For that question? Maybe Sylvia, can you repeat the question?
In previous State of Local Infrastructure reports, in the staff report preceding the document itself, it traditionally included a 10-year capital spend, both of how much we need to spend to ensure assets are in state of good repair, and how much money we're actually forecast to spend. And then document that shortfall so we know how big that gap is. And we used to have that in the State of Local Infrastructure reports, but it's not in this one. And it wasn't one earlier this year too. So I don't understand the change.
Thank you, Sylvia. Any staff want to comment? I think your mic's not working.
And the delegate.
Perfect. Thank you, Sylvia. Now we'll go on to our public works and, sorry.
Nobody would have heard that in the public, so he has to say it.
Sorry, through the chair, we'll get back to council with more information on that as well as to the delegate. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to our public works and engineering section. Councilor Vicente will be doing that.
We have two items left in Public Works. So first item is 10.3.2. Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say thank you to our bylaw officers, because I do know when they do attend and try to clean things up, they're very effective. This comes from feedback that Councillor Keenan and myself have heard from a lot of the local businesses in the area, and their frustrations with, if you've ever driven by Stafford off of Kennedy, and I know for many years since I've been a councillor since 2014, there was always the talks of a Kennedy strategy. And I know we've touched upon it with, for example, what we're going to do with the CAA centers or so on. But understanding that's an industrial corridor, close to industrial corridor as Rutherford, on Kennedy, where you just had Electra move in, and they're a major employer in the area. And if anyone who's gone to Stafford, it's incredible, and our bylaw can maybe speak to some of the stats at a later time. You will see you know, a lot of auto shops have their cars on city property, on the curbs. If they've done oil changes on Stafford Road, where if you go along the road, you'll see oil stains all over it. And so, you know, having attended and met with some of the local businesses, it's apparent that there's just not one sort of answer. It's not just a question of having bylaw, you know, go there occasionally, because, you know, I don't know what are the environmental impacts in the area. I don't know, for example, you know, how can we sort of revitalize that area? So I'm just hoping that this can go back to staff for, you know, a thoughtful look at, and again, I've identified Kennedy and Stafford. I'm open, you know, I would almost say south of Clarence all the way up to Steeles. But I will leave that to staff to do some thinking on, to maybe come back and sort of say what type of, you know, how can we clean up the whole corridor of Kennedy Road, where not only it's more appeasing, you know, but also will invite more, for example, redevelopment. People will feel that it's a better corridor because, you know, it's proximity to Steeles, close to, you know, onto Mississauga. But when you come from Mississauga and you come on that Kennedy Road, there's some, you know, strip plazas and stores that are not in the best shape, auto shops. I know it's a mixed match of stuff. So that's why, you know, I'm hoping that this would go to, it's not just simply a bylaw issue, it's a sort of cross-departmental. And I would hope that, you know, this would go with staff. I'm not sure who would be sort of the quarterback on this. I'll let maybe staff identify that. I don't know, through the CEO, maybe, is that something that, you know, who would be more appropriate to lead this? But I do think that's an area that needs to be addressed in some form of a strategy.
If staff can provide a response.
Through the chair, through to Councillor Maderos, in a quick discussion here with the CAO, planning will work with legislative services and others to come back with a comprehensive strategy that looks at both immediate operational things to bring properties into compliance, and then medium and long-term revitalization of that. Just for council's benefit, when council endorsed the Brampton plan, which is our new official plan, the areas of focus were, you know, sort of our Queen Street and Steeles and whatnot, where we have a lot of our major transit station corridors. But that's not to say we should neglect some of the north-south spines as well, Kennedy Road being one of them. So
yeah, and I appreciate that. There's no, you know, the time sensitivity, you know, in the meantime, I'm hoping bylaw can maybe wrap up some of their vigilance on Stafford and a lot, you know, along those areas. And in the meantime, you know, staff can let us know when they think appropriate, because I do know that it's part of it's a larger thing and it could, you know, snowball. But in the immediate, I do appreciate bylaw's efforts. They've come out, they've been very effective. And I just hope that we can really just clean up Stafford. So some of the businesses, because when you do look at a company like Electra there, spanking beautiful building, and everything around it so degraded that it would be great that, you know, we can sort of clean up that area. So thank you very much. And after, I'll let staff come back to me with you know, dates or to council when appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maderos. Speakers to the motion, Councillor Tour.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilor Maderos, for bringing this forward. Coincidentally, just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to some members of staff at Economic Development, folks at the Board of Trade as well, and this was after the business visit that we did at Steeles and Goreway at Encore. You look at that entire pocket of industrial development at Steeles and Goreway, Kenview, that Ward 8 piece there. It's a beautiful industrial park. There's trees, there's grass, there's landscaping, there's, you know, head offices that are located there. Encore Canada, for their size of the company that it is, wouldn't choose that place as their Canadian headquarters if the place didn't look like that. Definitely makes a big difference. Then you compare that to Mississauga Road, where you have Canon and you have Air Canada, you have so many of our corporate citizens there, Loblaws there, some of the beautiful buildings, but really well-kept area that, you know, city takes a lot of pride in. Kennedy Road, Stafford, Rutherford, there's that intersection where there's a concrete plant where concrete's sort of spilling over the wall at this point. It's always been that issue. There's always issue on parking. You know, a few of the shops there have done events in the past, and every time we go there, we see it firsthand. There's sidewalks that probably existed at some point are no longer even there anymore. Cars getting parked all over the place. The boundary lines are really very blurred. All this to say, I would offer this as a suggestion here to Councillor, that rather than the first approach being on bylaw enforcement on this, just keeping in mind at the same time being sensitive to our local businesses or small businesses. A lot of them are still in the auto sector there too. A lot of them will face impacts more immediately if there was very strong enforcement action that we double down on, and people have to come through doing major changes to their sites, which they should. The timing of that may not be the best for them. I would suggest maybe if economic development staff could also work alongside the two local councillors or any, whether it's through planning as well, to identify some of the things that could be done there to improve. Come with a roadmap, a timeline to say, we talk to all the businesses. If, property standards notices go out to businesses to say that you're in the wrong here, and here's where, what you need to do to get it fixed. But instead of asking them to fix it within 30 days or 60 days, we have that timeline to work alongside with them to see what's reasonable, that of course addresses the needs of the local community there, start beautifying it a little bit more, but have a more strategic plan so that that area too could look like Steeles and Goreway, could look like Mississauga Road, could look like, I wouldn't say Highway 50 at this point, but could start looking like those areas. So I would say if that could be a better approach, that's what I would suggest. It's a more strategic approach. Have bylaw enforcement definitely go out, look at what the issues are, identify those, but have an action plan on how that implementation happens rather than burdening small businesses at a very, very, very tough time right now in the market. So that's just my 2 cents on this, but I'm glad to see you're taking this forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tour. Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Happy to support the motion, Councillor Maderos. It's a good motion. I drive this area every morning when I drop off my son to Turner Fenton School, and I could see every single morning that it needs a lot of work. So appreciate you bringing it forward and happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor. Back to Councillor Maderos.
Thank you very much, Councillor Santos, and thank you, Councillor Tour, for the suggestion. Yeah, I'm fine, and I think staff will take that into consideration. It's not trying to be punitive. It's just you can't have. I've been there at sort of between that 12 and 2 time, where their cars and the trucks are parked where you can't even drive through Stafford. So it impacts, I guess, people getting businesses. But hopefully, with having some form of strategy and getting the news out there in the area, and probably Councillor Keane and myself will go out in the area and engage with groups, because, yeah, you're right. They've been doing this form of business for the last 20, 30 years, the way they're operating, and we don't want to be punitive, but we also want to sort of give indication that we're going to be paying attention to the area. So I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate everyone's support.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I see no other speakers, so we have a motion moved by Councillor Maderos. All in favor? That carries. Next, we have item 10.4.1 held by Councillor Power. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad this petition finally came to light. I know it's been held for a little while, but I got a question to the clerk, if I could. Shouldn't it be unredacted as opposed to redacted?
For the petitions, the full petition is available in the clerk's office, but to publish online, we do limit each line to one identifiable piece of information for each person. So it is available in full if anybody would like to see it unredacted, yes.
And this goes to, it speaks more to the motion that I already have referred to budget through the CAO's office. So I'd like to refer this petition to the budget as well as alongside the other motion that I have for budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have a motion of referral. Speakers, Councillor Santos.
I think Councillor 14 was first.
Thank you, Councilor Anzal. You're correct. Councilor Fortini.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and that's why the petition was sent in. My staff did send it in. I received it about 3-4 weeks before we had a little town hall. And I just want to make sure, so that's what I was asking when I put the hold on it too, to make sure it goes through our budget process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Happy to support the motion. Just a question to staff from the previous motion brought forward regarding option 5, which is a new option that was tabled. I just want to make sure that because that new option was tabled for consideration last minute, and it was not included in the actual presentation in the report in terms of the assessment and evaluation of the impacts on the mobility plan, active transportation master plan, the Brampton plan, you name it, all the various policies that enabled that particular route in the network to come to be. I'm wondering whether or not staff in the referral back to budget will evaluate option number 5 in the same way that other options were considered, so that we can transparently see the impact on Vision Zero, the mobility plan, the Brampton plan, everything in the same way, and multimodal modes of transportation, like that evaluation, especially with respect to safety and congestion and speed cut through traffic. For that to be considered, as well as when that has been referred to budget, the other option that has not been considered is the status quo in terms of how much things cost and its actual upholding of the policies that council has already voted for.
If staff could answer.
Through the chair, through to you, to Councilor Santos. So simply put, yes, the answer is yes. Option 5 would be brought forward by way of a memo, like we typically do through the mayor's budget process, with the same sort of multi-pronged lens that all the other options were presented in the past.
Great. So if that option 5 can please be evaluated in the same way. The other thing that happened when that presentation on the Howden bike lanes was brought forward, we had only just passed the mobility plan. And so I just want to make sure that all the options that are being tabled for our consideration for the budget also includes consideration to the mobility plan that council endorsed.
Through the chair, through to Councilor Santos. So the mobility plan that council endorsed is basically the pillar that any option regarding transportation mobility in the city would be viewed against. So yes, that will be context for the report back.
Great. And then finally, the context for the report back on this, because it's about budget and what is least expensive or most expensive, is the option of status quo, which is keep it as it is.
Through the chair, through the Councilor Santos, certainly status quo would be one of the options that would be presented in the report back.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Councilor Santos. I see no other speakers, so we have a motion of referral moved by Councilor Power. All in favor? That carries. And with that, we wrap up Public Works. Do we have any questions from members of council? Seeing none. Public question period. Do we have any questions from members of the public with regards to the Public Works agenda, Madam Clerk?
Through your chair, there's no questions online.
Thank you very much. And we'll move through community services section. Everything is dealt with. And so we have councillor question period for community services. Any questions? Seeing none. Madam Clerk.
12.3.1 was a discussion item added by Councillor Power.
Councillor Power, you have an item. Thank you.
Thank you, and through the chair. I know a lot of us have gotten probably a massive amount of complaints regarding fireworks over the last couple of days, whether it be from email, text, WhatsApp messages, phone calls, like inundated with. And I can tell you late at night, I've gotten them as much as 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm sure I share the sentiments of everybody else on council. If I could ask Director Higgs to maybe provide an overview of the operations that have gone on for the last couple of days, and maybe some of the fines that might have been handed out for the record, and what type of work had been done.
Through the chair.
Absolutely, Councillor Power. I can confirm that many of your peers have received emails. They've sent them to me, and we're going through them each very diligently. I can give you a brief synopsis as to the current state of affairs. Leading up to Diwali, we partnered with Strategic Communications to raise awareness in regards to what the community standards expectations would be. And we also conducted proactive license officer inspections to enforce fireworks sales prohibitions. Throughout the time period, additional officers were called in to assist with enforcement. We took a partnership approach with notable inclusion of Brampton Fire, park staff, and corporate security conducting enforcement and increased visibility throughout the city. I can note that this year's enforcement period is 6 days as opposed to the 5 days of 2023 and 2024. In past years, celebrations ended on Diwali date itself, whereas last night actually generated more calls than any other night. There are many metrics that we are monitoring to fully assess the event time period. Some tentative numbers are that penalty notices were issued, specifically for fireworks and public nuisance violations. The current amount is $45,200 worth of fines citywide. In response to these issues, there were also several proactive enforcement and engagement measures, including 109 proactive patrols were completed across all wards, and those were focused on areas that were of significant concern in previous years' complaint data. 47 patrols were conducted near schools, and 65 proactive cases were created for fireworks sales. Anecdotally, we have continued to see a trend away from large parking lot gatherings to smaller driveway localized events that are shorter but more numerous. It was also noticed that there was a significant police presence in those larger gathering areas. We continue, these are simply our initial numbers. Enforcement efforts are continuing as we go through the complaint data to see what information has been provided to us. And we'll continue to follow up and take those appropriate enforcement actions.
That's great. Thank you, Director Higgs, and thank you to all the officers who proactively worked in the last 2 nights to hopefully mitigate as much as they can. I know the firework ban came in effect 3 years ago because of what had happened here in the city, and I know there's a significant reduction in what's going on within the city, so thank you very much. If I could just ask for a future report to come through more detailed type of report of areas of concern and possibly what type of fines were given out, specific fines, or the highest number of fines, dollar-wise. Thank you.
Through the chair, absolutely.
Thank you very much. We have speakers. Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously passionate about this subject. You know, I'm a little disappointed after so many, after a good number of years of what I felt was a lot less complaints. Definitely got a whole bunch yesterday and the day before, to be quite frank, but a lot more last night to all hours in the morning. And kudos to bylaw. I know we had conversations in specific areas. What I want to make sure, and Councillor Powers covered most of it off, but we had complaints that maybe we never got to that have specific addresses. Are we still going to those houses in the, today and tomorrow, if not to educate, but to see if there's evidence and lay fines?
Through the chair, absolutely. That was my reference to enforcement efforts are ongoing. If we've been receiving information that constitutes evidence we can proceed on, we're absolutely doing that.
Yeah. I heard through events that were being put on, public events, not our events, that there may have been some fireworks sales happening right under our noses. And I think, if other municipalities, like maybe Mississauga, picks up the same, it's easy just to cross the border, get the fireworks, and come back across, right? So hopefully sometime soon they'll do the same thing where it'll just continue to be less and less. was there a lot of fines laid leading up to the events for the sale of fireworks in your proactive enforcement?
Through the chair, I don't have the specific number of the charges. My apologies. I have how many proactive cases we noted, which was 65, but I can certainly include that in the report that comes back.
I would appreciate that, and thank you to your team, you and your team, for everything that you're doing in this. It's been a nuisance for quite some time. It's going to continue. We are way down. What I feel that, you know, when we do major events, be it Canada Day, be it Victoria Day, Diwali, we get fireworks on those days, which is to be expected. I think we expect that we're going to get some. We're nowhere near the numbers it was before, but where we're really down on fireworks is those every night of the week for no reason fireworks. Those are pretty much, you know, obsolete now. I'm not saying they're gone completely, but it is the trend that, you know, they are way, way less. But we just really need to focus around these bigger events and try to get some more compliance. A lot of the people reaching out to me were families of young children that are up crying still at 2 o'clock in the morning. I do have 4 kids. I did hear them in my house. Frank, you know, good thing my kids slept through it. But I do feel for the families that those kids need to go to school the next day. So thank you very much for everything that you're doing and continue to do on this file. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Keenan. We have a motion being written up on the screen. We have speakers. Mayor Brown.
Yeah, we definitely saw an uptick in complaints this year about fireworks. I know in past years we looked at the volume of 311 calls, and ever since we had the ban, there was a massive decline. And as long as, when you speak to people, as long as there are fines for those that break the bylaws, they understand. But what I think would cause a lack of confidence in the program is that they find out that people were breaking our bylaws with no repercussions. And so I'd love to be able to share with the public how many fines were issued. Because really, I think that's the question out there is, are we upholding our own bylaws? And if not, then why not? And what's the breakdown? So I think in that report back, it clearly needs to show the total volume of fines, how many bylaw officers were working that night to manage the volume that we have on Diwali, and then we can publicly share that with the community.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brown. Deputy Mayor Singh.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge staff's work as well. We've noticed a steep decline in wards 9 and 10, and that might have to do because the Diwali festival is in 9 and 10, so a lot of people just watch the fireworks from their house. But having said that, it's been a huge decline. We do have one problem area. The only area I think me and Councillor Tour got messages from, otherwise we didn't have any other emails or anything, so that's good, was the Mount Royal area. So it just still seems there are some actors there that are going deep into the night. So the WhatsApp group was active today. They're probably watching online as well. And so if we could just pay attention to that area, I'll pass you some of the contacts there. Maybe just give them a courtesy call. But I remember when we made this decision, it wasn't easy, but Councillor Tour had mentioned he wanted to do this during the election period, and I thought it was pretty bold. But I remember the election was on Diwali Day 3 years ago, and I remember coming outside my house the next day, and my daughter was just coughing like crazy. And I remember that was the day, that was the moment I decided that, you know what, we're going to have to take this step. So I think it's produced tremendous results. But the problem is, I guess, when there are those few actors that go late into the night, they're much more highlighted because everybody knows their band as well, and they can visibly see it or hear it, and and it infuriates people because they're breaking the bylaw as well. So I know you have your work cut out for you, but I do want to acknowledge in our wards in particular, not only do we see less, but we're getting less and less complaints as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have motion on the board moved by Councillor Power. All in favor? That carries. And with that, we move down to councillor question period for alleged services. Seeing none. Public question period for legislative services. Madam Clerk, do we have any questions?
There's no questions online, Chair.
Very good. And with that, we move on to the referred matters list. Are there any questions with regards to the referred matters list? It was on consent, so now we go to final public question period. 15-minute limit for questions and answers with regards to any subject on this meeting. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Chair, there are no questions
No,
online.
and none in the gallery. And so with that, we go through closed session, which was in consent, and that moves us down to adjournment. Committee, our next scheduled meeting is on Wednesday, November the 12th at 9:30 a.m. I have a motion moved by Councillor Power to adjourn today's meeting. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.